righty, folks. Welcome on into the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. We are live once again. It is Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. We are 2 weeks into the month of January and the year of our Lord 2016. Excuse me, 2016. Okay, I'm already brain rotted. I'm still waking up. How is everybody? It's 2 weeks, yeah. And if there's anything we've learned, anything at all we've learned about, I don't know what the fuck's going on with my earphones. Hold on, chat. Or my earbuds. What the Lord? Anyway, morning, everybody. Harambe was almost 10 years ago. You know what? I was too old to care about the Harambe meme when it happened. It's like how you feel about 6'7" today. I swear my new, I got these AirPods, and I think they fucking suck. My prime minister is in China. Anyway, what are we talking about today? Trump is continuing to demand Greenland. Judge denies state restraining order against ICE. Okay. Federal crackdown is growing in Minneapolis. FBI agents search a journalist's house. Fuck is it? Stop it. The fuck? The new version of the AirPods, whenever I put them in their charging case, or maybe it's just mine, it doesn't feel like it definitely charges. It feels like sometimes it just doesn't charge. You know what I mean? Let me open that. What a piece of shit. All right. Can you look at my animation on YouTube? This is your first time, chat. The answer is absolutely not. Fuck you. That's my answer. Native Americans are being held. Anyway, okay, what else are we talking about? And DOJ prosecutors are quitting over investigations into Renee Good. Senior Iranian commander told U.S. staff to leave base in Qatar after Tehran threatens attack and major escalation. Yeah. I mean, all right, can we just speak about the Iran protests for a second? Watch a Western video coverage of it, and then we're gonna talk about it, because I haven't really spoken out about it yet. Because I have there's a lot to say.
Protests in Iran continued to grow today and over the weekend, as has the death toll.
Made a good nuanced video. Okay, let's do that. That's a good point. Let's do that.
There is this multi-decade history of U.S. covert and overt war against Iran. Also Israel. You have the assassination of Iranian scientists. You have a whole array of covert operations that have taken place. You have very explicit regime change threats from Trump. The narrative of the Iranian state, I was just watching an interview on Al Jazeera with the Iranian foreign minister. I also watched the speeches at the massive pro-government rallies yesterday. I think it's a mistake to say everything that these guys are saying is false, and that's a lot of the news coverage, is that this is just an authoritarian regime that is just making these are true trends that they're citing. I mean, there is massive foreign involvement inside of Iran, and my question to you is, how does a state like Iran that exists as a counter to what the United States wants to see in the world, how do they respond then to these kinds of actions, given that the backdrop of a lot of this is interference by the U.S. and Israel and other actors? Because the position seems to be, well, Iran should just not do anything. And if Iran is accurate, and so they say they have evidence that there is direct foreign involvement in some of the violent acts that have killed security personnel and have attacked other infrastructure in Iran.
I think the point that I would want to make, that everybody should understand, is that the United States of America is not an actor that has clean hands. The Iran that we see today is the product of literally decades of U.S. intervention. And it is the decades
That's a legitimate grievance that the Iranian state has against foreign actors, if it's true, paying people or having their operatives on the ground. We know that Mossad is active in Iran. They also announced that they are all the time.
Anybody saying we do is a fucking rube. Our interests in Iran are an attempt to constrain and control the world's flow of oil. That's it. That is it. We are not interested in Iran as a beacon of freedom. We oppose that. If you want to understand why we oppose that, it's because if Iran is a beacon of freedom, they will control their own oil like Norway does. And the benefits of the oil will go to the Iranian people. The United States of America did a coup against Mohammad Mossadegh, who was pro-American because BP asked him to. Asked the United States to. That's the reality. So the United States of America is not interested in Iran for the purposes of peace, democracy, freedom, or anything else. It's the same thing with Ukraine. In Pakistan, we specifically overthrew the popular and democratically elected government in favor of a military dictatorship. In Egypt, we overthrew the democratically elected government in favor of a military dictatorship. These are things that have happened in the last 25 years. Pakistan, it's the last 5 years. We do not care. We just invaded Venezuela and kidnapped their president. The United States of America does not care about democracy. We are happy to ally ourselves with dictatorships and tyrannies in Africa, in the Middle East, in Latin America. We are happy to overturn democratically elected leaders for the interests of the capitalist class. The United States of America is not interested in Iran for the benefit of the Iranian people. Period. There is no debate on this. There's no question of this. The United States is also not a gray power that will sometimes do good. That is not correct. We are an evil power. We are a colonial power. We are there to dominate and steal every time, and it's always been that way. The second thing that you must ask yourself is the Iranian regime a good regime or whatever the fuck? Is that a regime that reflects the democratic will of the Iranian people? My response to that is it's up to the Iranian people to decide. And I support the Iranian people's right for self-determination. But I don't think we can tell what the fuck's going on in Iran. What is the legitimate yearnings of the Iranian people while the United States of America interferes with that country? We have the Islamic Republic because of the United States' intervention.
You see what I'm saying? Like the Iranian state does have a right. It is the government. It has a right to respond to foreign interference. And at the same time, it can also be abused, calling in that card to then attack people who have nothing to do with foreign act.
Right. And this is where, things become quite complex, I think, to understand for a lot of people. The Iranian state, as you're saying, is standing up to all of these different forces around the region. But when you are an Iranian living inside of Iran and you've been raised inside of Iran, and all you hear is the government saying, what is happening to us is the fault of outside powers. After a while, you get exhausted of that argument and you're like, I'm done. Like I'm done hearing everything is the fault of everybody else, but you all never take the blame for anything. And so this is sort of
that's the other factor. It's like, of course Iran is in terrible condition. It's being sanctioned and blockaded by the world. There is no independent country. There is no country that is an autocracy. Not autocracy, but autarky, whatever you call it. Autarky. Self-reliant. I can't pronounce the word, but you know what I mean? Like they're economically self-reliant. That is no country. So if a country is isolated, its economy will collapse. Period. The United States are isolated, our economy would collapse. If the United Kingdom was isolated, its economy would. So the fact of the economic collapse, that's a direct intervention that the United States is doing against Iran. Autarky, thank you. Twitchy. That's what I was looking for. That is the reality of it. So, of course, people are going to be pissed that their economic lives are worse. Of course. That's one of the reasons why we do sanctions. The reason why we do sanctions is because the American foreign policy apparatus is in many ways materialist in the sense that they understand if you want people to be pissed at the government, make their lives worse in material reality. Give them food shortages, give them clothing shortages, have their wages go down, have high inflation. That'll make you, that's a materialist analysis. That is a fucking very clearly a regime that understands that people's material existence is what drives their political sentiment. So of course we're driving down the quality of their life intentionally. That's an act of war. But America can commit acts of war. And that's just treated as if it is background noise. So you could be a leftist, but if you see something that looks like a shock, you're a fucking moron. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Get the hell out of here. Honestly, what I would suggest for you to do is I want you to pick up. Here's what I want you to do. If you want to be unbanned, I want you to get on the phone with your mom, FaceTime. I want you to record it. And I want you to ask her, Mom, are you proud of me and why? And then send me that video once she gives you her answer. And I want you to send me that video. Then you could be unbanned. Do some serious research on terminal velocity. We need your firsthand experience. I mean, chat, you know what? I really want to learn how to parachute. People were saying Hassan was wrong for saying the U.S. was worse than the Iranian regime. This is the one thing that Hassan does that I don't agree with, which is give people sound bites. I think Hassan needs to start acting more like a politician. We are treated, myself included, we are treated like politicians. Also, the other thing is I would sue Hutch right now for defamation. That's the other thing I would, if I were him, I'd sue Hutch immediately for defamation. But obviously Hutch will raise money from Asmongold, etc., etc. You know, it's not like it's going to do anything, but still. ICE abducted a husband and wife for observing them, and while they obtained detained, offered them money or legal protection for names of illegal immigrants or protest organizers. Here's what I would say. Did you see he's going to have an insane podcast where the kids talk to the MAGA parents on a stream? Yes, I did see that. Did you see the 4,500 names of leaked ICE officers? Oh, I did see that. We talked about it yesterday briefly.
The game, the narrative game that is being played out right now. Iranians are exhausted. This is the same thing, actually, that is happening in Venezuela and Cuba, too. And all three countries have been under maximum pressure sanctions and maximum pressure policies by the Trump administration and then the Biden administration continued it. And we have sort of all three sort of coming to a boiling point right now, is that you have these populations that are legitimately exhausted. They are exhausted with their economy being in the state that it is. They are exhausted by hearing the same kind of rhetoric from their state over and over again. And they are exhausted that when they are asking for reforms, that the governments and their regimes use the excuses of outside to not make legitimate reforms that need to be made inside of the country. So then this becomes a question of legitimacy. Right? And how does the state regain a particular kind of legitimacy among its population? In the aftermath of the war in June, when the United States and Israel attacked, there was a big shift that happened in Iran because for the first time, the United States and Israel being enemies of Iran was not a distant thing, and it was not just rhetoric, right? Because again, as all of you have been mentioning, Iran is a very vast country geographically. So yes, it's in the Middle East, but the things in the Middle East feel very far away when you're sitting in Iran because Iran itself is so big. Israel feels extremely far away. All the different wars that have happened in the region also feel far away. So when bombs started dropping in Tehran and other places, that was the first time that imperialism really came to people's doorsteps. And so that really began to deepen the geopolitical understanding. I mean, as we mentioned before, you know, there's a very robust civil society in Iran, but this robust civil society, one of its pitfalls these many years is that it hasn't had a very deep geopolitical analysis. And part of that is because they've been focused so much on internal reform and internal sort of transformation that they are desiring. And the other part of that is because they sort of have turned a blind eye or have thought that a lot of the things that the Islamic Republic is saying about what is happening in the region and geopolitically is mere propaganda. And this is why it also took Iranians quite a bit of time to see what was happening in Gaza in order for it to no longer sound like it was the things that had come out of state television. So in order right now, part of why we're seeing so much on Iranian TV showing specific instances when, you know, a mosque will be set on fire and they're highlighting like, okay, this is the agent provocateur. Let us show you what is happening. Part of what they're trying to do is to also communicate to their own population that we know that you don't always believe us, but let us show you what is going on here. Now, this is going to have to be something that, and this is another reason that they keep showing, and the different kinds of vandalism that has been happening, because part of it is not just to instill fear, but part of it is to say that we're not exaggerating things. But again, what makes all of this so messy and what makes it so hard is that you are caught between a very real authoritarian state that also has to deal with very real imperialism and uh, dealing with nuclear states. And this is sort of why it's such a cauldron.
Well, Narges, I wish we could have you on longer, but I know you do have an heart out. Narges Bajogli from Johns Hopkins University. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Samir, I cut you off there because I wanted to just make sure that we got that last comment from Narges there about this kind of balance that the Iran.
Did you hear that Israelis might have been responsible for Patagonian fires in Argentina? Wait, really?
Iranian state has to.
I mean, that sounds right to me. Like, honestly, I think there is a lot of understanding that Israeli tourists are some of the worst tourists you could possibly get. They don't follow local customs and rules. They act very entitled. They're assholes, really. I know in Southeast Asia, there is almost standard that places will deny Israeli tourists accommodation because they are so notorious for being pieces of shit. Worse than Americans, yeah. Americans are loud and annoying, and they don't usually speak the local language, but at least they gregarious. Americans are loud and annoying, but they can be nice, right? Whereas Israeli tourists are the opposite. They don't even have that. They made a law that Patagonian land could only be sold if it was burned out. Israelis have been lighting fires in order to buy land. Death penalty. I think one of the things that all right, I'm going to say something, and this is my most right-wing opinion. Settle in. I believe that for leftism to successfully work, there has to be a period where certain norms are established beyond a reasonable doubt, right? One of those is anti-corruption, even-handedness, probity, integrity. There has to be a period of no tolerance for that kind of behavior, right? And then once the norms are so firmly established that people don't even question it, then we could have a lighter touch about correcting, antisocial behavior. But when I think things get as bad as they are now, people like Elon Musk have to be, I don't know what else to say, dealt with appropriately. And we can't have people like Elon Musk walking around. They've got to go. And when I say got to go, I mean criminally charged. No longer, he should not be a billionaire. There should be an Elon Musk expropriation, rather, where we take all his money, take all his stocks.
Because there is this explicit regime change threat, the covert operations, the actions by the Trump administration, the threats from the Trump administration and others. But you also had wanted to pick up on something else that she was saying. So take it where you want there, either what I was just talking about or what you were going to say before.
Yeah, I wanted to pick up on this aspect of what she mentioned with the satellite televisions. These things like Iran International, Manoto TV, these stations are beamed directly into people's homes in Iran. Couple that with Instagram, which is what most social media, when they have access to the internet right now in Iran, that is what Iranians are on. You have pages like IDF Farsi and other pages, which are constantly, I follow them religiously again, but they are constantly beaming messages into Iranians that Israel is your friend. We are your friends historically. So they're appealing to this sort of biblical times, Cyrus the Great, when Israel, and the great people of Iran were joined together. And there is a real anti-Arab racism as part of this. Another fear that I have actually is watching Iran devolve into what could possibly be a very authoritarian, nationalistic, racist, secular state. That's another fear that is very probable if this government falls. But I want to come back to Reza Pahlavi because we've mentioned him a lot here. Look, nostalgia is a very powerful thing. Nostalgia is very powerful, and people are tapping into that. I firmly believe during social movements and what we're seeing in dinner table politics and psychology, which is something that I think people just do away with. They don't think it's important. But you have aunts and uncles and other people saying things like, when during the Shah's time, when we would show our passport, people would bow to us. This is a generation right now in Iran, Gen Z. This is a demographic fight also in Iran, because they don't care about these things that have happened in the past. They care about the fact that they hold a passport that they can only go to, 20 countries with. They care about the fact that they can't party above ground. These are the things that are really at the forefront of a lot of people that are on the streets in Iran. They're sick and tired of this government, which in their eyes has no legitimacy. And so this threat of a civil war happening inside the country is what a lot of people are afraid of. Because listen, the Iranian government still has a very strong base inside the country, whether people like it or not. And when you look at the demographic that they bring out, they're mostly people above 60 something years old who still, harken back to the time when, they brought the Shah down. But there is a real demographic fight that is going on in Iran, which a lot of people don't pay attention to either.
My general feeling is that Iran is a regime that is not going to make it. I don't think they're going to make it because, not having pursued nuclear weapons at this point, it shows a lack of the ability to understand geopolitics in a forthright and honest way. They were bamboozled, and Pakistan has nukes. They developed nukes, and guess what? America doesn't give a shit. They illegally, as did India. Pakistan and India illegally developed nuclear weapons in contravention of the anti-proliferation laws, and nobody gives a fuck. The fact that they did not get nukes, unbelievable, and it's why the regime just doesn't have. I don't think they have the geopolitical heft to really hold up. I think eventually it's going to collapse. Also, Persians are not really that socially conservative. I don't think the Islamic Republic is going to fit Persian society. It'd be like us living under a dictatorship of Donald Trump. Most Americans are not like that. India and Pakistan didn't sign the NPT, so it wasn't illegal. If international law can be opted into, then it doesn't exist. That's exactly what the Germans and the Nazis said during the Nuremberg trials. Oh, we didn't agree to that, so it doesn't apply. Funny when people repeat Nazi Nuremberg defenses to make their arguments. There is no international law. There was, but the United States of America has dismantled it. International law mattered more when the Soviet Union existed, because the Soviet Union was a credible deterrent on a lot of fronts to the United States. So international law was a good compromise to avoid conflict. But now that there is no credible deterrent, and this is really the crisis that we're at right now. China does not want to destroy the international system that we have. They are succeeding and profiting from being integrated into the global economy. They want to continue to be integrated with the global economy. They want to continue raising their standard of living, their own people, and defending their own sovereignty. They don't want things to change. But unfortunately, they've won too hard. And the United States is losing relative and absolute power compared to China. And the United States and the West are not going to allow a socialist state, self-described, to become the most powerful country in the world. So they are going on it's an ideological aggression. And I don't think the Chinese understand that. I think the Chinese wrongfully believe that they can rationally discuss mutual benefit with the rest of the world. They cannot. Capitalists would rather destroy the world and rule the ashes than lose their class position. China's trade ends 2025 with record $1.2 trillion surplus despite Trump's tariff jolt. By the way, chat, look at this Chinese factory. Clean, well lit, just adults working, good working conditions.
China on Wednesday posted a record trade surplus of almost $1.2 trillion in 2025. Chinese policymakers' push to diversify beyond the US paid off as exports to non-US markets boomed. Producers have tried to build global scale and fight off trade pressure from the Trump administration.
I just love that the Trump, amazing, fucking amazing, dude.
Administration. They have shifted focus to Southeast Asia, Africa and Latin America. And that helped cushion the economy against US tariffs and tensions with Washington. There will be more challenges for Beijing heading into this year. That as global capitals have grown more worried about China's trade practices and overcapacity. But
the problem that China has is that there are not any left-wing pro-China elements in the political world of the West. They just do not exist as a political force. So there's no way for China to engage anybody who would be sympathetic to China. There's no way for them to engage with anybody who would say, hey, we should not have a Cold War with China. They lack entry into the Western political system. There used to be pro-Soviet parties in Europe, but there are not really pro-China parties in Europe. And I think that's a major crisis. That's a major crisis. And I don't even think we need to be pro-China. It's more just like neutral to positive. Like, we don't have a problem with China. What's wrong with China?
But a customs official announced Wednesday that China's foreign trade remains solid. They added its ability to deal with risks has been significantly enhanced. Its December exports grew 6.6% year-on-year, beating forecasts and up from November's number. Imports were up 5.7%. Economists expect China to continue gaining global market share this year.
Open presents. Thank you for the 25 gifties. You are the best.
Bolstered by Chinese firms setting up overseas production hubs to combat US and EU tariffs, as well as strong demand for lower-grade chips and other electronics. But Beijing still faces further questions about how long it can counteract a property slump and weak domestic demand by shipping cheap goods to other markets.
Residents of Bangladesh's southeastern frontier town of Teknaf staged a street protest on Tuesday. It came after fighting across the border between Myanmar's Arakan army and armed Rohingya groups injured at least 2 Bangladeshi civilians. That's according to officials and locals. The clashes erupted near the border earlier this week, with bullets crossing into Bangladesh. Witnesses said stray rounds hit homes and courtyards as gunfire continued across the Naf River. One of the stray bullets hit 9-year-old girl Hujaifa Afnan. Mohammad Jashim is her father.
We are living in grave risk. My daughter was shot badly. She's now in intensive care. I can only pray to the Almighty, but the risk we are still in, I cannot explain enough. The Arakan army is becoming a big risk, and they have laid mines across our border, landmines.
In a separate incident, one woman said her son lost a leg after stepping on a landmine allegedly planted by the Arakan army.
When the Arakan army and the Rohingya Solidarity Organization were fighting at the frontier, we all were at our homes in the village. Some of our young people went to see what was happening. My son was also among them. He didn't realize there was a landmine under the ground. He stepped on it and it went off. We are so poor. I don't know how I can bear the cost of his treatment. I don't know what we will do.
The Arakan army has seized control of much of Myanmar's Rakhine state in recent months after junta troops retreated, but faces resistance from Rohingya armed groups. Bangladesh has stepped up patrols and warned residents to stay indoors as fighting continues along the frontier.
At least 25 people were killed and about 80 injured when a train derailed in northeastern Thailand on Wednesday. The accident occurred after a construction crane collapsed onto 3 carriages in Siku district, about 140 miles northeast of Bangkok. The train was traveling from the capital to Ubon Ratchathani when the crane, which was part of a high-speed rail project, fell onto it, causing it to derail and briefly catch fire. Authorities say more bodies remain trapped inside the wreckage, but recovery efforts were paused after the crane shifted, posing further danger. Transport Minister Pipat Ratchakiprakan said 195 passengers were on board and ordered a full investigation. Images from the scene show overturned carriages and firefighters battling flames as smoke billowed. The elevated line under construction is part of Thailand's planned high-speed rail network, which is being built above existing tracks.
Isn't that super interesting, chat? Isn't that interesting how Thailand can afford to build high-speed rail, but we can't do it from San Francisco to Los Angeles? It's disappointing to listen to Iranians that want a regime change. What? Okay. Holy shit. I need to say something. The Iranian regime is not an ally of the left. I need you to understand that. It is not an ally of the left. And ultimately, the Iranian people do not want to live under it. That's just a very readily apparent piece of information. That also does not mean that we should support United States intervention. I don't trust the United States or the Western media whatsoever. However, there has been this kind of, I would call it LARPing of people that consider themselves to be anti-imperialists who are trying to claim the Iranian regime as some sort of nexus for resistance against the West. And it's really not. It's really not. And it doesn't have any ideological affinities to us. The reason why there is a right-wing regime is because the left in Iran under the American dictatorship was suppressed. That's why the Shah took power, was to suppress the left in Iran. The mullahs were left unperturbed because America likes conservative fundamentalist religion. That is to them seen as an alternative that can capture the minds of the masses as opposed to class consciousness, which they're desperate to keep from developing. And at the end of the day, I don't want the United States to have their fingers in Iran. I want to see the Israeli government dismantled. But I also have the wherewithal to recognize that these are not groups that are ideological allies or even short-term allies of the left anywhere. They don't give a shit about us. In fact, they want to kill us. The protesters on the ground have no allegiance to the US or Israel. They want freedom. I mean, I would never have the arrogance to say something like that. I know for a fact that the United States frequently supports on the ground protesting through various forms of CIA funding and literally hiring protesters. They do that. I also am not questioning these protests. The true answer is we don't know. We don't know. There's really no satisfying thing to say about Iran. This is a time where you just look at the situation and you're like, the United States of America and Israel are without a doubt a malign influence in the Middle East. Iran opposes them. Whatever regime comes into Iran, if the mullahs were to fall, would certainly not be in the interest of the Iranian people in all probability. I'm Iranian. You don't know the sentiment on the ground. No, I do know the sentiment on the ground. That's why I'm saying, okay, well, I mean, if you are Iranian, then you should understand that I am actually agreeing with you, because I'm saying I don't know. I'm in fucking Los Angeles. What do I know about the protests of Tehran? We do know the CIA and Mossad are sponsoring the protests. They've said, oh, of course. I mean, and that's exactly what they did when they overthrew Mohammad Mossadegh. So I'm sure that's true. I'm sure there are forces supported by Mossad and the United States that are supporting these protests. There are Shahists. There are all sorts of, I mean, they want to turn Iran into Saudi Arabia. That's what they want to do. If the mullahs just said you could have all our oil in the same way that Saudi Arabia did, they would be fine with that. They don't give a shit about democracy. The Brits split up the Middle East like they did Africa with fake borders. The CIA locked it in with a century of destabilizing people's movement. I mean, they're not even people's movements. They're just supporting various warlords and whatnot. And it's not just British in America. It's also French. The French, for some reason, get let off the hook, and they did all sorts of they did the same shit. And they're, in fact, still doing it. Ask yourself why KSA, UAE, and Qatar aren't having anti-repression protests explode in their countries. Because they're American puppets. All right, let's take a look at what's going on in Minneapolis.
I can also see the point of view of the people. Who say, yeah, but you don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up, many of which turn out to actually be U.S. citizens that just don't have their papers on them. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to? So it's more complicated than I think people want to admit. ICE are villains. And now people are looking at them like murderous military people that are on the streets of our city, and they're masked up, which is also a problem, right? Because if you get arrested by a cop, you're allowed to ask the cop, what is your name and badge number? And you could film that cop. If you get arrested by an ICE agent, you have no such right. They're wearing a mask. They don't have to tell you. It's also very ugly to watch someone shoot a U.S. citizen, especially a woman, in the face.
Right.
Where it's like, I'm not that guy. I don't know what he thought. And again, this is a guy who had almost been run over. It just looked horrific to me. I mean, when people say it's justifiable because the car hit him, it seemed like she was kind of turning the car away.
Podcaster Joe Rogan criticizing the Trump administration's targeted ICE operations and the agency's aggressive enforcement tactics.
And you know, Willie, it's when you have somebody like Joe Rogan who supported the president talking about, in Joe Rogan's words, Gestapo-type tactics, talking about the masks, talking about how these people aren't even like police officers, because with police officers, they pull up.
There's a process.
You talk to them. There's a process. You can see who they are. You can communicate back and forth. Everything about this seems to spike tensions on both sides. And I will tell you, looking at the videos yesterday following the killing of Renee Good, it was hard not to come to the conclusion that they may be trying to ramp up tensions. ICE may be intentionally trying to ramp up tensions. They want this confrontation, despite the fact we've shown polls in the last hour that show that something like 46% of Americans now want ICE abolished. We've shown polls that since Kristi Noem took over ICE in February, the approval rating for the agency has gone down 30%, and barely a third of Americans that ICE shooter that killed Renee Good by firing.
New polling, chat. 45% of moderates support abolishing ICE. 50% of Trump 2024 voters support abolishing ICE as well. This is a landslide level of popularity and the reason why is because Harris voters, there's a bunch of Harris voters who are unsure. That number is already, meaning this number has a very much higher ceiling to climb. We could get to 60%, no problem. If Democrats came out and said ICE is a fascist organization that needs to go, this number would skyrocket another 10, 15 points.
Point blank, 2 shots from the side at her. They think that force was not justified. And yet they're ramping it up, Willie. It doesn't seem to make much sense at all. Here's YouGov, only 30% think that shooting was justified. So if you are listening to podcasts and watching TV shows and living in a world, reading things online where you think that you are with America and America is with you on point blank shooting of Renee Good, you're wrong. You are dead wrong. Not even 1/3 of Americans agree with you, Willie. It just seems like the White House is making things worse for the people of Minneapolis and making things worse for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this many times, but the president lives a bubble of his own, where he's hearing from his advisors, where he's hearing from his media sources, where he's hearing from his base and his supporters that officer did the right thing in that case. But the American public disagrees, as these numbers show again and again and again. Joe Rogan is an extraordinarily important voice. He has a massive audience of people. Many of them are Trump supporters. He supported Donald Trump in the 2024 election. But he also is a clear thinker who, when he sees something with his own eyes, he knows what he's looking at. He's seen enough of it. He's heard enough about it to draw some conclusions from what he's seeing, and not just the incident where Renee Good was shot in the head, but all these other images that you're just talking about, Joe, where you have masked men dressed for war, pulling people out of cars after breaking their windows, going into Targets and dragging U.S. citizens out, now pursuing refugees, Somali refugees who've been vetted through a security process and come to this country to escape what's happening in Somalia. They're being dragged out for the crime of being Somali, even though they're here legally. So this all adds up to the poll numbers that you just showed us. So 1 week now after the ICE officer shot and killed Renee Good, clashes between residents and federal agents are intensifying across Minnesota. State Representative Michael Howard tells the New York Times, quote, "It feels like our community is under siege by our own federal government." President of the Minneapolis City Council, Elliot Payne, says, quote, "This is a military occupation, and it feels like a military occupation." Videos like this one from a gas station in St. Paul show chaotic scenes of agents using extraordinarily aggressive tactics to make arrests, smashing car windows, forcefully pulling people from their vehicles, pinning them down, dragging them across the ground. This is another arrest from that same stop where a man pleads with officers, telling them he is not resisting.
I'm not resisting. Hey, I'm not resisting. I'm not resisting. I'm not resisting. This is how you spend your life? Hey, can somebody grab my phone? You a cheap JV Gestapo? I got your phone. That's what you want? I got you. Who do you need us to contact? Hey, my girlfriend's right behind you.
By the way, chat, it's not just ICE, it's also Border Patrol. This is something that I yelled at Atrioc for, because Atrioc doesn't know anything and he's a fucking moron. Border Patrol is also a problem. Border Patrol is even more radicalized than even ICE under Trump. This is an unreported story for some reason. Everyone's saying it's only ICE, but it's also Border Patrol. Mike just got in. Have you seen this video?
Phone number. My girlfriend's right behind me.
Once you guys get him in, let's get him into Victor 3, okay?
I'm going to Victor 3. That's what they said. Victor 3. Get up. Give him a good pat down. Once you get him up, give him a good pat down. Get up. You can look. All right, we're done. Pick up his legs. Pick up his legs. Back up, you guys.
Stay back. Stay back. It's a gas station in St. Paul, Minnesota. A similar scene unfolded late last week at a Target in Richfield, Minnesota, where employees watched as their two co-workers, both United States citizens, according to local officials, were seized by federal agents.
Hogs have internalized market logic and as moral logic. All that matters is to be strong or be food. Being powerful is good in and of itself. Yes, that's basically fascism in a nutshell. Fascism is whatever the powerful can do is moral. Obviously, if you think about that for more than 5 seconds, you understand that there are a lot of powerful people, and if they're always acting in their own personal interest, they're going to rob us all blind, and they're going to demolish all the institutions for their own personal enrichment. And they're going to justify it by saying, I'm powerful, therefore I can. Thereby making society antisocial.
No, I think I can't see. I can't see. I think it's Johnny.
By the way, I need you, honestly, chat, like, I don't want people to stop being shocked. I don't want people to stop being angry. But at a certain point, you need to recognize that these guys aren't going to be stopped because you think what they're doing is wrong and you're saying a mean word at them. They get stopped when they worry about their own livelihoods or other personal considerations.
Do they have Crystal? You guys have everything you need? You have the warrant? You have everything to be taking him right now. Both of them. Where is the paperwork? Where is the paperwork?
Manny, what are we doing? Manny.
This isn't it. This isn't it right now. Not Minneapolis. Where is the paperwork? Where is the warrant? Where are their warrants? Is anybody else going to ask for the
Get on the phone. Hey, no.
have the right to have
Get on the phone. Please stay back. Go on the phone.
And clear
Make a phone call. Go make a phone call right now.
Willie, this is happening to American citizens in suburban neighborhoods, in suburban America. When Joe Biden left office, crime was at its lowest rate since the early 1960s. People were starting to feel safe in the streets. And we're seeing every day images of terror coming out of suburban neighborhoods, at suburban gas stations, in suburban Targets, in suburban streets, in suburban neighborhoods where people are trying to go to their doctor's appointments or people are trying to go to church. Videos of a man telling ICE agents swarming his car, hey, I'm praying for you. You should let me go to church. You should let these people go to church. Willie, these images are unthinkable. And again, this is what we used to see and why we used to feel superior to Russia and to China and to the old Soviet Union, because we would see people picked up on the street like this in those countries for merely protesting. Now that is happening to American citizens in American neighborhoods, in the suburbs, in America. And anybody who believes that there's anything American about that, well, they must have just immigrated here from Beijing, because there's nothing American about what's going on right now in American cities.
And you ask yourself as you watch those videos, okay, what is the alleged crime? What did these people possibly do that would warrant that kind of response? And as you say, often it's protesting the presence of ICE officers, say, inside a Target, or, as Joe Rogan said, not showing your papers. Your papers. Think about that. So as these videos have come out, President Trump continues to post on Truth Social yesterday, writing, "The day of reckoning and retribution is coming for Minnesota." Cryptic message, unclear what he means exactly by that. Mike Barnacle's at the table with us. Mike, just as you watch one video after another, you think a little bit about the arc.
Joe Rogan is quote worthy. You're a good chatter, but I don't know why you say stuff like this. I need you chatters to stop saying stuff like this, because I'm going to start permabanning you, and I don't want to do it. If I hear one more platforming point, you're going to be permabanned. In fact, mods, can you make that a rule? Can you make that a rule? Saying anything about platforming is a permaban. Can you make that a rule? If I hear any comments on platforming, you will be permabanned. Joe Rogan is one of the most popular podcasters in the entire world. He has far more reach than MSNBC and myself. He was highly influential in 2024 in pushing young men toward the Republican Party. He's a fucking moron. However, him saying ICE is bad is a sign of sentiment changing and shifting, and is newsworthy. If you don't care about Joe Rogan, congratulations, you're just like me. I don't care about Joe Rogan either. However, I live in a society. Donald Trump had a meal with Nick Fuentes in 2022. Can you stop with platforming discussions? Can we leave it in 2017 or 2019 where it belongs? Shut the fuck up. It's actually, not only is it counterproductive, it's actually annoying, and it just derails every discussion. You're not allowed to do it anymore. I am incredibly responsible with my platforming. I don't platform 3 viewer Andy Nazis except to make fun of them. I do not platform people with no audiences. I quote, platform people that are the president or the largest podcaster. Like, can we stop with these dumb fucking statements and comments, because they are annoying? And it's one of the most annoying busybody bullshit comments. I don't care what you think about platforming. Shut the fuck up. I don't care.
Of history as well. What do you see here?
I was talking recently with an old friend of mine, my oldest friend.
I keep thinking about John Hancock's oration at the Boston Massacre. Let the sad tale of death never be told without a tear. Let not heaving bosom cease to burn with a manly indignation at this barbarous story. Through the long tracks of a future time, let every parent tell the shameful story to his listening children until tears of pity glisten in their eyes and boiling passions shake their tender frames, and whilst the anniversary of that ill-fated night. I'll never forget that John Adams defended the fucking redcoats. Fucking pathetic loser. And they won. That's the funniest thing about the Boston Massacre, is that Americans are so cop-coded that they voted to acquit redcoats for shooting their fucking fellow countrymen down on the street for protesting. Holy fuck, the Boston Massacre is so ridiculous to think about in hindsight.
Who came back from Vietnam at the end of 1969 with a Silver Star and memories that he still carries to this very moment, on this very moment.
And by the way, chat, mods, when I say ban people for platforming, if somebody is legitimately new and they're, we could give them timeouts, and we could send them warnings going, we don't have platforming discussions here. If you continue, you will be permabanned. Thank you.
And he was telling me he didn't sign up for any of this. He didn't sign up for an America that has disappeared in front of his eyes over these past 2 weeks. The Minneapolis Police Department has about 600 sworn officers. There are over 2,000 ICE members on the streets of Minneapolis. A 14-year-old walking to school, taken right off the streets by ICE. A woman, as we've shown here this morning, on her way to a doctor's appointment, ripped out of her car, thrown onto the street, taken by ICE. But ICE has taken much more off the streets than just the people in Minneapolis. ICE has taken the reality of what America used to be and thrown it away. And this is not going away. This is not going to disappear in several news cycles from now. This is not going to disappear during summer days when people are happy and scot-free in places like Martha's Vineyard or Santa Monica, California. This is the America that the Trump administration, version 2, has brought to the world. And sadly for the Trump administration, it has stamped itself on the minds, I think, of many Americans who now wonder, what have we done? What are we doing? All of this is an obscenity fostered by the government of the United States of America.
And all of this is deeply unpopular with the American people. Let's show some polls right now. You have 46% of Americans who now are saying they think ICE needs to be abolished.
Police unit, Minnesota Police Unit, Fraternal Order of Police put out a statement saying they stand with ICE. FOP stands with ICE. The Minnesota Fraternal Order of Police stands with the men and women of law enforcement across the country. Over the past month, while federal law enforcement has been doing their job in Minnesota, political and community leaders have condemned and vilified them. The hateful and anti-law enforcement rhetoric by Mayor Frey and other politicians have made their jobs and those of local and state law enforcement more difficult and dangerous. The job of law enforcement is difficult and dangerous enough without the agitation by leaders in our state and communities. When citizens are accused of a crime, they are given the presumption of innocence as afforded by due process. When there is an incident involving law enforcement, politicians and activists immediately condemn those involved and are scrambling for sound bites. They do not afford them the same due process, but rather convict them in the public court of opinion while an investigation is barely beginning. Minnesota Fraternal Order of Police condemns these attacks on law enforcement and calls on politicians and leaders to stop the anti-law enforcement rhetoric and to ask for calm while the facts come out. Okay, here's what I would say. This is mutinous, and I think that all FOPs should be abolished. I don't think police unions should be allowed in the same way that military unions are not allowed. Secondly, what are you talking about? The President and the Department of Homeland Security Secretary immediately came out and vilified the person shot and rushed to judgment. Are military unions a thing? No, they're illegal. So everything is the exact opposite of what they're saying. Now, right now, I'm boiling in rage. Right now, I'm boiling in rage inside. And I want to say a lot of things that I'm not going to say because my platform is, I'm sure, being investigated with a fine-tooth comb. And they're going to, I'm not Hassan. People will not ride to defend me at the same level. So what I will say is that this organization should be disbanded. And I think that America needs to have its entire law enforcement system completely rebuilt from the ground up.
46%. Keep that up. ICE is an agency that in February of 2025 had like a plus 14 approval rating. Before Kristi Noem took over, ICE had a positive approval rating. Before Donald Trump allowed Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller to run his White House and run American streets like they were St. Petersburg or Moscow, ICE had an approval rating that was positive. Now, 46% of Americans seeing these images and hearing the stories that Mike Barnicle just talked to you about, 46% of Americans think that ICE should be abolished. And those numbers will go up every day as these heinous videos come in. And you do wonder, is anybody awake in the White House that can go tell the president, you are destroying your presidency, you are destroying what Americans thought was your strongest issue. You are destroying Republicans' chances to win in November. It's a good question. I mean, the shooting, you look at the shooting of Renee Good, let's look at the polls there. Only 30% of Americans, according to YouGov, believe that that shooting was justified. Now, if you were a part of, let's say, a MAGA podcast, or you were listening to MAGA podcasts this week, or you were watching MAGA news networks this week that were parroting everything that the president wanted them to parrot. That was basically reading Kristi Noem press release statements and buying completely in to the fact that they think it's normal that a young woman who was turning her steering wheel sharply to the right to try to get out of the area is shot twice from the side of her car at point blank range with the gun aimed at her head by a police officer who's fumbling around, walking in front of the car and fumbling around with an iPhone and a gun in her hand. Now look at this. Second shot there, third shot there from the side of the car. And if you think that that is normal in America, and you think it's normal that the Justice Department is covering this killing up, that there's not even an investigation, you're even more MAGA than Tom Holman. Because Tom Holman actually said what responsible law enforcers say. Look at this. Shot 2 right at her, and then shot 3 as she pulls away. Tom Holman rightfully said, let's not just look at a video and make assumptions. Let's have an investigation. The White House says no investigation.
Yes, justified.
No investigation. So all of these numbers show, Mika, that this is tearing Minneapolis apart, and those numbers show that the overwhelming majority of Americans see all of this as being deeply un-American.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that doesn't surprise me is that this looks like Russia. Okay, I'm sorry, Chad. I can't keep watching this. Just joining, but saw Morning Joe, and I already had the world. I mean, the fact that they said this is un-American. No, this is fundamentally America. This is America. This is how we've always been. When you watch videos of the civil rights movement, the cops are spraying fire hoses at the protesters. This has always been how the American police operate. Always. There were American police trying to stop the integration of high schools and public schools. It required the 82nd Airborne to allow the little girls to go to school in Little Rock. Matt Iglesias, April 2025. I'm sort of open to the idea that we should be a country with a national ID card system and a rule that you're expected to have your papers on you at all times in case your citizenship is challenged. But if that's what conservative want, we need to create the card. Papers, please. Being able to stop someone for no reason other than to demand ID is a great way for police to harass people who are otherwise doing nothing illegal. This helps silence speech and provides cops with an easy crime to detain someone for if they aren't holding an ID. And even if you are holding the ID, they just throw it in the fucking trash and say you aren't. Are you stupid? Like, that's the other element, dumb fuck. You give people a very easy crime. Centrist organization Third Way demanding Democrats not use the term abolish ICE. The same day a new poll comes out showing that even moderates support abolish ICE by a 10-point margin. Of course they do. And this is something that I've been saying for a long time. Public opinion can change. Public opinion can change. And the Democrats don't try to change public opinion. Republicans do. The only politician I've seen that's trying to change public opinion in the Democratic Party is Zoran Mamdani. And it fucking worked. I think Americans are starting to say the quiet part out loud. Several officers from the Swedish Armed Forces are arriving in Greenland today. They are part of a group from several allied countries. Together, they will prepare for upcoming elements within the framework of the Danish exercise Operation Arctic Endurance. It is Denmark's request that Sweden is sending personnel from the armed forces.
But protesting ain't gonna do shit.
I just want to know when the we light the torches and get the pitchforks.
We are the generation that has to do something.
Pretty soon, this right here is gonna be our only way up out of this shit.
I think I'm willing to die for this.
We can't wait till November. There's no waiting to the ballot box. We need to get to the bullet box.
I'll be brutally honest, I see an insurgency brewing.
I have that TikTok. Hold on, let me pop that up.
For the occupying forces that are occupying our cities right now. I really don't. Some keep asking in lives, what are we going to do? What is it that we need to do? What can we do? There's a lot we can do. We're doing the right things by doing the marching.
Oh, did I forget an A?
That's right. That's a rightful thing to do because, we're honoring. When you're marching and you're peacefully protesting, you are honoring us.
Thank you, Chatter.
You are honoring you are honoring the Marines who are now on gate guard duty in heaven. You are honoring every soldier, every sailor, every airman, every guardian, every coastie. You're honoring all of us by doing that. We honored you, those of us who did. We honored you by not breaking our word to you and obeying the Constitution and not following unlawful orders.
I think at the end of the day, like, one of the things that is always of concern to me is the way that leftism has become lifestyleism and disdained any of the tools of successful revolutions. Successful revolutions draw on communal feeling. Successful revolutions have military skills. If you don't have, as the chatter says so poignantly, a driller on your team, you're going to be drilled.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Americans have finally reached their breaking point, as evidenced by the fact that so many of them are now talking openly about a literal revolution, either through peaceful means like a general strike and mass mobilization, or through an armed revolt. And
I will tell you that there is no such thing as a peaceful general strike. That's not true. The moment we do something like a general strike, force will be applied. And then the question is, will you defend yourself or not? I think what the Renee Good shooting shows me is that conservatives will never, ever, ever change their mind. That the conservative forces in this country are fully fascistic and ready to commit violence on their countrymen. That is the condition of a civil war. When a young mother could be gunned down unarmed while committing no crime and 30% of Americans defend it, we are already in civil war territory. And I think one of the mistakes we've made is not prepared for it. So now is the time to end that mistake. A general strike has been called by who? Did you see this lifestyle leftisms were complaining that Zohran Mamdani has mass popular support? Some of these people were complaining that picketing nurses were cheering, walking the picket lines alongside them, something that Cuomo or Adams would never do. What I want you to understand is that anarchists are they're like caltrops in the parade of progress. Like they really don't do anything other than be annoying and distracting. There's a reason they fly a black flag and not a red flag, because they're not on our side. Like they just aren't. Sometimes you'll throw caltrops down to annoy an opponent, but when you need to make an advance, they're now an obstacle to you. So when you finally have momentum, the first thing you have to do is clear those caltrops out of the way. Sweep them aside. They serve their function to annoy the enemy, but now they need to be swept into the gutter so we can walk forward.
This kind of revolutionary fervor only starts to take hold in societies when people start to feel like political change through traditional democratic means is no longer possible. And Americans are right to think that that's the case, seeing as how we effectively live in an oligarchy where billionaires and large multinational corporations dictate all of the public policy that gets passed. It's to the point where we don't even get crumbs anymore. Like, remember when they used to give us some incrementalism, sprinkle some crumbs on us just so we feel like we're fed? They're not even doing that anymore. And just to give you a recent example of how bad things are, look at this headline from the New York Times, which reads, EPA to stop considering lives saved when setting rules on air pollution. In a reversal, the agency plans to calculate only the cost to industry when setting pollution limits and not the monetary value of saving human lives, documents show. I mean, what is there to even say?
Okay, now we're cooking with gas.
And so for some people, they call that a strike. For many of us, we say that this is our right to refusal until something changes. On Friday, January 23rd, we are calling for a day of truth and freedom. It is a day where every single Minnesotan who loves this state and loves this idea, this notion of truth and freedom reigning true here, will refuse to work, to shop, and to go to school. We all have witnessed through several videos the murder of one of our own, Renee Good. There are lies being spewed about our neighbors here to give an excuse to try to validate why we have thousands of mass officers here harming our people and harming us, taking citizens from where they work, beating people up and dropping them off at random locations. This is not rumor. We are seeing it with our own eyes every single day. This day that we are calling for, we now have 10 days to get there. And in those 10 days, we are calling on all Minnesotans to get your plan together. We're doing it with unions, like the St. Paul Federation of Educators, Unite Here, Local 17, SEIU, Local 26, our ATU, our transit union here in Minnesota, and many, many more unions are gathering. This is also with faith and community groups like Isaiah, Unidos, Jewish Community Action, Copal, and many, many more. The list continues to grow. We have to make sure that every single person is doing what we are called to do in this time, that is grounded in their commitment and in their conviction. And so for some people, they call that a strike. For many of us, we say that this is our right to refusal until something changes. And so for some people, they call that a strike. For many of us, we say that this is our right to refusal.
Like, for any general strike or any of these things to work, you need to have buy-in of organized forces within the organizations, within the labor movement. You need to have a nexus, a leadership, where people can make democratic decisions and then execute them with accountability. The problem with unorganized actions is that it leaves it up to everybody's individual conscience. And a lot of the time, it results in no action. When you have an institution that everybody's accountable to, when you have social pressure, you could get some of the cowards to take those first steps they would have taken on their own. And then when they see it working, they change their mind. They become bolder. But without the pressure of the group, they might not have taken that first step. Many people who are brave of heart pragmatically realize they can't alone do anything. But when they have a group, suddenly they instead of being disempowered, they become empowered. That's why hierarchy is necessary. That's why leadership is necessary. That's why structure is necessary. That's why social accountability is necessary. That's why individual sentiment is not enough
anymore. It's a little too on the nose, even for America.
The New York City nurses strike had 20% still go to work on Monday. That's because the company was offering $200 an hour for strike breaking. And even when offering $200 an hour for strike breaking, 80% of the nurses said, fuck no. What we need to create in this culture, and it's something that I've been trying to do since 2019, is to educate people and inform people that scabbing is never okay.
So needless to say, the system has completely and utterly failed its people. Other governments throughout history have faced popular uprisings after they weren't able to adapt to the changing needs of its people fast enough. But I mean, in this late-stage capitalist hellscape that we're living in, they're not even trying to adapt. In fact, they're openly defying the masses by cutting our social safety nets even more to pay for more tax cuts for the rich. It's like they're spitting in the faces of a population that is already pissed off. And we've been on a downward trajectory for so long that Americans feel like they have nothing left to lose at this point by rising up. The cost of living is unsustainable, healthcare costs are skyrocketing, and to add insult to injury, the things that once distracted us from our misery are also becoming too unaffordable, like video games and streaming services. So when people no longer have an outlet, bread and circus, if you will, to keep them entertained, when they have no escape, no community, no hope, they begin to fixate on how bad things are, and eventually their anger begins to fester, and it reaches the point where they become consumed with rage and can only think about how much they hate the people in power who are responsible for all of their pain and suffering. And you really get a sense of that feeling of despair and hopelessness from these social media posters.
Fuck this goddamn country, this stupid fucking country that we live in, this dumb fucking world that we live in. In what fucking universe is any of this just gonna be taken fucking lightly?
All we do is work to barely get by. We pay our bills, we pay our rent, and we scrape up the pennies to try to put food on our table. We are not living a dream. We live in the worst nightmare we ever could imagine, and tomorrow's gonna be worse. If we all stand together and say, you know what? It isn't going to get any better. Stop every fucking thing. I don't give a fuck what it is. People are afraid, I might lose my house. You're going to lose it any fucking way. But at least be a man or a woman and fight for this motherfucker while you got the opportunity to do it. But to try to end the shit that we live in, man, this is not living. I don't know what the fuck you call this anymore. Out of all the years I've been on this motherfucking earth, I never would have imagined it'd get to the point where I'm working myself to death.
That last rant was really cathartic to listen to, but this frustration is compounded by the fact that we all know that even as bad as things already are, they're only going to continue to get worse. Year after year, people are working longer hours for lower wages, and there's just no political will to alleviate our suffering even a little bit, because again, the capitalist class demands that we all slave away in order to increase increase profits for shareholders. Amazon workers are forced to piss in bottles to increase productivity so Jeff Bezos can buy a third mega mansion to temporarily stay in while the other two mega mansions that he built get demolished and then rebuilt into one mega mansion. But as bad as things are, people are still forced to feel thankful for the shitty jobs that they have, because in the not so distant future, those jobs could very well be replaced by either automation or more likely AI. So this revolutionary fervor that we're seeing is the direct result of the system's failure. People know that our government doesn't serve us, it serves the rich. So it's no longer capable of producing results. It's no longer capable of producing political change. The question then becomes, though, how do we change or overthrow that system that's oppressing all of us? And the reason why people are forced to ask this question is because they know that the typical answers like protesting and voting no longer seem viable, as explained by these individuals.
I'm not sorry to say this, but protesting ain't gonna do shit. And to the people, call your representatives, get on the phone.
Okay, here's the thing about the concept of protesting. Here's the thing about protesting. Protesting is something that has arisen in the age of mass media. It has a purpose. The purpose is to demonstrate the size and the sentiment of the population in support of a position. This is to transmit information to the world about a locality's feelings about an issue. All right? Those protesters make demands, and they are transmitted via the media. All right? In a functioning democratic system, when a large percentage of the population supports a position, politicians are supposed to see that and go, okay, I better be careful about opposing these people because they're very powerful and they might vote me out of office, right? That is the procedure that's supposed to be happening here. Unfortunately for all of us, everybody knows about this. There's no consciousness raising needed. People are mad about this. And the institutions we have are unresponsive to democratic will. So now you have to ask yourself, what do you do when you are being oppressed in an undemocratic system? And that's where you need to start escalating to withholding labor. The powers that be, the elites, they're not going to listen to our voices. Well, now they need to see what happens when we withdraw our muscles and our labor from their profit machines. Are they going to ignore the fact that the economy grinds to a halt? That gives the opportunity for the powers that be, again, not only are we protesting, we have the resolve that we will put down our tools, we will stop work, we will shut down the economy. And then the powers that be have an opportunity to cave. Or they can escalate repression. If they escalate repression, what is the response then? And I feel like Americans and even leftists, don't understand that protests are the first step of an escalatory popular uprising. You start with protests, you go to general strikes, and then you go to rebellions. You're giving the state, you're giving the powers that be, the elites, the opportunity to see the level of resolve that the people have. If you're not prepared to step up that escalatory ladder, then you are giving power to the elite.
For what? Their voicemails are full. They're not available. They're not answering the phones. Tried that already. Then there's those. Make sure you show up for the primaries. That's the only way we can do that. That's in November. This is January. What are we going to do in the meantime? Because ICE is ramping up their efforts. Until we start to associate our actions with what's actually happening, it's going to get worse.
The only reason the Democratic Party exists is so that the people don't revolt. Because the Democratic Party gives us a way to feel good, to feel like change is possible, to feel like change is coming. Have a little hope. And they speak really nicely and they say all the things we want to hear, but then they never really deliver on their promises. They never actually reverse the damage done by the Republican Party. And why is that? It's because the corporations and the elites donate equally between the two parties. And our politicians, Democrat and Republican, both answer to those corporate interests. And if we didn't have the Democrats saying exactly what we need to hear and saying nice words and making bills with nice titles, even though none of that delivers, if we didn't have that, we would revolt. There'd be no outlet. There'd be no convention, no signs, no cheering, no moments of joy, no amazing speech. But at the end of the day, after 250 years since the inception of the United States of America, we don't have affordable housing, we don't have a living wage, and we don't have national health care. In fact, those things keep getting more expensive every year. Oh, but Jeannie, these things take time. Shall we wait another 250 years and just keep doing the same thing over and over again, voting for the same people, expecting a different result? I promise you, if we do that in 250 years, we won't have anything.
And therein lies the problem. People are recognizing that we're trapped in this perpetual cycle where Republicans break the country and Democrats come along right after and promise to fix what Republicans broke, but they never actually do. So how can we even move forward and build upon what little progress we've made when we can't even fix what was broken the last time? It's like we take 5 steps backward and 1 step forward if we're lucky. Like, we are truly circling the drain in this country. So how can we expect real change when we functionally don't even have an opposition party in this country that is willing to facilitate real change, let alone resist fascism? You've got most Democrats openly supporting Palestinian genocide in direct defiance of their base. They arguably lost the last election because of it. Some have even decided to defy the base on trans rights and immigration, which were issues that traditionally they were more humane on. Their thought leaders like Ezra Klein are encouraging them to run anti-abortion Democrats and are calling for even more neoliberalism. You've got Democrats like Angie Craig attending a crypto symposium with Eric Trump, and she also voted for the unconstitutional Laken Riley Act, which denied due process to undocumented immigrants, including Dreamers, along with Jared Moskowitz. But both of these individuals are pretending like they're against the Gestapo that they once emboldened. On top of that, the party's 2028 frontrunner Gavin Newsom spent the first month of Trump's term chumming it up with fascists like Charlie.
Kim Koski dropped out for some reason, probably because he wasn't raising enough money. He wasn't, he didn't have a good path to win. Did you see Eric Adams launched a New York City shitcoin? Yeah, we talked about it already.
And Steve Bannon, and he's now vowing to stop a proposed billionaire tax in his own state. And I also want to present you with a video of the leader of the Democratic Party with no comment because it speaks for itself.
Should ICE be abolished, Senator? Will you use? I have
lots of problems with ICE.
Should it be abolished?
I have lots of problems with ICE, but we should keep the Gestapo. Chat. I want to talk about this person real quick. This Lilith Lovett. Apparently, they're a Twitch streamer and Vosh and Destiny fan. And for some reason, they've started attacking Hassan out of nowhere. And so I looked them up. I looked up Destiny. Sometimes whenever someone attacks Hassan, I just go to their account and search Destiny or the Omni Liberal. And every single time, you'll have a post like this. Not a fan of Destiny, but I don't think he should have been permanently banned from Twitch. Now, chat, a lot of Destiny fans say, not a fan of Destiny, but exactly what Destiny wants to happen should happen. This is a very common thing. She was saying, Hassan fans are basically Asmongold fans, but woke. This is basically a Destiny talking point. And notice that there's no actual point here. There's no actual argument, right? It's just this kind of like sentiment of spreading shit against Hassan. 1 million views, not even 5.5 thousand likes. Damn, nobody want you for real. Yeah, because I'm sure they got reposted by big accounts. Oh, hey, look. Hey, chat, look, it's all the Destiny orbiters. I mean, if the first person reposting is blocked by me and they have a like, look at this shit. Christian conservative. This is who retweets the Hassan hate. Oh my God, that's crazy. Bro. That's crazy. Holy shit. I don't even block that many people. That's actually crazy. I block someone if they post something really unhinged or like stalkery. That's crazy. Wow. Like, I've never seen this many of my own blocked accounts in a repost section. That's crazy. So basically, what we have here is, that's crazy. Holy shit. And notice this type of person, Lilith Lovett. I'm gonna make sure I'm not following them on anything. They have a Twitch. Oh, every time. I guess they don't stream anymore. They gave up, which I understand. You are unpopular. No one likes you. You have no fans. That is true. How do you have 80,000 followers on Twitter, but you can't get together a stream that more than 5 people want to watch? That's crazy. My first stream on Twitch, I had like 40 people. That's crazy. You are very unpopular. Got a lot of bots in there. Ethan is trying to do another Shockgate. Honestly, here's generally my feeling. Like, I think that if you see Dan Saltzman, Destiny, or Ethan Klein in public, you should ask them why they support harassment campaigns. Although none of them really go outside. It is kind of a problem. Mike, that's not fair. You had clout for being a good chatter caller before streaming. Yes, I know. I called into the majority report and people listened to my takes. Like when I predicted Jeremy Corbyn's overperformance in the 2017 general election of the UK by analyzing polling and explaining why the polling was going to go wrong, and then it went wrong exactly in the way I predicted. That got me a lot of clout. So anyway, if you think this person's a scumbag, you should probably tell them. You should probably explain to them why they're wrong and why supporting Destiny of Vosh is wrong. I don't know. It's probably important that you do that. Notice that nobody owes you engagement and nobody will choose when to choose speak purely in bad faith through thought-terminating cliches and buzzwords. Bro, you didn't make a point. You didn't make a point. You are a hysteric moron picking internet fights with random so you could... A random that has 30,000 more Twitter followers than me quote tweeting me and calling me a parasocial lobotomite. That's what I'm picking fights with randoms. Ethan doesn't understand that there are other ways to interact with dogs other than feeding them cheese. I mean, all I can say is Ethan Klein, by the way, Ethan Klein, since he's trying to talk about Hassan again, how's the Social Blade? How's the H3 podcast doing? How's it doing? How are the views? Oh my God. I didn't think it could keep falling off even more. 7.7 million views in December. Oof. See, in December of 2024, they got 9.2 million, which was low, but oh my goodness. Wowie zowie. Another negative 10K subs down. Holy shit. 65,000 views in a day? How much money is that? How much is 65,000 views in a day? That can't be very much. Maybe like what, $200-300 bucks? They added 2 videos and they got 93,000 views. Oh my God, dude. This is with a channel that has almost 2.5 million subscribers. God damn, they fall off. God damn, they fall off. And by the way, these are views. Holy shit, this channel is dead. Holy fuck, is it dead? And they have like how many employees? 9 employees? Is H3 doing something? They're on vacation right now. Wait, they're on vacation in mid-January? God, what a slovenly, lazy piece of shit he is. Guys, he needs to take 6 weeks off from his 3 hours a week job or 9 hours a week job. It's too much. Subs don't mean shit unless it converts to views. The most important thing is how much people watch, not how many people click, not how many people subscribe. It's how much do people watch. That is the thing that most people who don't understand content don't like. That's how you could tell if somebody's kind of a dummy, is if they're focusing on metrics like a view instead of like hours watched. That's why Hassan has the 5th most hours watched on all of Twitch. He is by far and away one of the most important streamers on the entire platform. Watch time is what matters. You didn't deny you support Vosh the pedophile. Remember when you called an Arab man a house slave? No, I don't think I called I don't think I called absent backbone a house slave. And I didn't say Jews are a demonic ethnicity. I said Benjamin Netanyahu's invented idea of identity for Israel was an ethno-nationalist project. That would be demonic. I watched the stream for 3 days at 22 hours in December. Wow, that's a lot. It was yeah, I don't like to use phrases like house slave. I don't use phrases like house slave or Uncle Tom. I don't think that that's appropriate, and I think it's bad optics, and I think that it gives liberals something to complain about instead of talking about the points. So I try not to give people like easy talking points by saying stuff like that. I'm not an edgy boy. Also, notice how they're distracting from what I'm saying. She supports Vosh the pedophile. Anyway, I just wanted to draw your attention to that. You know, if you're looking for people that are part of the problem, Lilith is part of the problem. So you should, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I oftentimes am thinking, who is behind some of the problems that we're having in society? Well, you found one. Now you have someone that you can help educate. What did Vosh do? He's a pedophile. And we don't support pedophiles here. None of the big left accounts are talking about Sasha Riley. It might not be the biggest story out there, because Twitter is actively suppressing, but it's blowing up on other platforms. I mean, why hasn't that gotten repeated? Why hasn't that gotten more? Because it hasn't risen to the level of credibility. I don't know enough about this. People could just say shit. So in order for me to start reporting on something, I need some level of credibility in it. Should I steer clear of Gremlo? I mean, yes. I don't honestly think you should. Listen, chat, I gotta be honest with you. I don't think that you should be hanging out with people that, quite frankly, are only in it to make money. It's a good sign when left-wing grifters are out there because it means that the left is really popular, but it doesn't mean you should support them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm out here and I'm talking about politics because I talked about politics every day, whether I had a stream or not. I'm not doing this because I want to be famous. I'm doing this because I want to change people's minds and I want to help organize a better world. All right, let's keep going.
Overnight, federal agents using flashbangs and a sudden show of force, confronting a line of protesters outside a federal building in St. Paul, Minnesota. While in Minneapolis, mounting anger. Last night, a crowd gathering outside a hotel where protesters thought ICE agents were.
There was a time we were all homies. I tried to be homies with people, but you have to understand that Hassan is on a pedestal for many people on Twitch. I am the second largest political streamer. And the reality is that I've been in the trenches fighting people for a long time. And there was oftentimes easy clout for stabbing me in the back. You would get boosted by Vosh or Destiny if you stabbed me in the back. So a lot of people for years and years and years stabbed me in the back with regularity to try to get clout from Vosh and Destiny. And when Vosh and Destiny have fallen off because everybody, you know, for the reasons I said they would at the time, I continued to grow. And my friendship with Hassan has been maintained this entire time. But because I used to be 150 viewer Andy. You know what I mean? Like, I used to be a 0 viewer Andy. And so a lot of people stuck daggers in my back over the years because, you know, it was a way of getting that positive boost. And you might get a short-term sugar high from shitting on Mike because Destiny and Vosh would boost you when you did it. But it didn't actually make you successful. It doesn't make your stream worth watching. And that fundamentally, over the years, quality has risen and those scumbags have been exposed as scumbags. Now, the one thing is, I let bygones be bygones. If people have decided that they want to distance themselves from Vosh or Destiny, I say that's great. And I'm willing to let people go. I'm willing to forgive people for bad shit they did 5 years ago. I don't hold a grudge forever. All I expect is that you apologize and you treat me like a human being and you recognize that what you did was wrong. And that's it. That's not that much to ask. But a lot of the people that I let escape from their past and have actually been friendly to, when there was an opportunity where they could try to get me permabanned or they could try to harass my partner or where they could try to slander me, they jumped on the chance. And I had the scales fall from my eyes. And I'm not going to hide it because, you know, occasionally you watch their stream before mine. I'm going to tell you the reality about people like Gremla, about people like Cinemarxism. You know, just because they are recognized in Hassan's chat once in a while, I don't give a fuck. I'll be honest about the way they treat me and VO and other people in this space. And they do so because they think that by attacking me, it's going to grow their communities and therefore their money, which is the only thing they care about. I found you from Hassan, and I really appreciate the way you cover issues. Recent follower, but the detour to cover unhoused people in LA and the housing crisis overall yesterday is something I feel like is talked about a lot, but very few people cover in depth. Glad to be here. Appreciate what you do. Thank you. I'm sorry for calling out other streamers. I don't like to participate in drama. I'm just going to be honest. Somebody asked, so I'll tell you the truth. I don't want you guys going over to Gremlo and hanging out with Gremlo. The guy hates me and he hates VO and he's trying to destroy our lives. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, you want me to hide that for him? Like, it is what it is. So it is what it is.
Sleeping. All part of the fallout from the killing of Renee Nicole Good by an ICE agent a week ago today.
Only old heads, though. You used to have smaller creators on daily to lift them up until people just decided just to say fuck Mike. I mean, I you know, I'm one of the rares that found Hassan through you. Nice. Hassan owes me.
The Trump administration has claimed Good was a threat to the agent. Yesterday, President Trump...
I remember when Mike was a regular on Austin show. I'm still a regular.
weighing in.
I would bet you that she, under normal circumstances, was a very solid, wonderful person. But
parts of Hassan's community regularly trash you and create an environment where I can't post about something good about you without being dogpiled. One of those days, Hassan will drag some of these people for their parasocial hate of you, when in reality, Hassan is friends with you. I mean, and Hassan and I were at the, you know, hanging out on New Year's Eve, and those people were not. I don't know what else, you know. Hassan and I celebrated the new year with a discussion of China. Like, I don't know what else more to say. Like, it's kind of weird how people who are parasocial with Hassan will project that onto me. It's like, I've known Hassan for 7 years. What are you talking about? It's very weird. I just got it today from that person who I was talking to you guys about. I just showed you that. Let me show you that tweet. They said I was parasocial with Hassan. What? It's just weird shit. Parasocial lobotomized. What are you talking about? He's been my friend for 7 years. What are you talking about? Just weird. And yet, and Destiny does it. H3 does it. It's like, bro, you're not in the club. It's weird. And you could be parasocial and hate someone. Parasocial doesn't just mean like someone. It also means hate. If you have strong feelings of hatred towards someone for personal reasons, but you don't know them, that's parasocial. I followed you since 2019 and Hassan since 2015-16, and that's how I know you are real ones. Your authenticity and honesty is why I tune in regularly. I mean, we haven't changed one bit. People who are obsessively parasocial can't possibly comprehend the concept of being actually social. I like Hassan because of his politics. These people have no concept of a normal coworker or friend that they're not weird towards. Exactly. It's like, we're good. We're coworkers on Twitch. We're friends in real, you know, we're friends and hang out once in a blue moon. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not his bestie. I'm nowhere near as close to him as a bunch of his friends. I like him, but that's it. I also have my own friends and my own life. It's just weird. We're in the same space and we agree on a lot. It's just weird. It's fucking weird. The way people, like, everybody has to be the closest of friends or enemies. You can't just be like, we like each other. You know, we have different friend circles that we hang out with. When we see each other, we have a nice, pleasant conversation. Like, it's so weird that you can't have like a solid. You can't just be solid with someone. Everybody has to be the most intimate best friend, or you have to like hate them. It's fucking weird. I fell for the anti-Mike propaganda as a former Vosh viewer, but after hearing your actual takes and commentary, I've been enlightened. Thank you. I mean, there are people that blame me, like, to talk about that anti-Mike shit, which I'm sorry that we're doing this and not talking about more important issues. I promise we'll get back to them shortly. A lot of the people that hate me, it's parasocial because it's like, I agree with Hassan and I understand Hassan's thinking better than they do. So I'll make a take that's very strong and very harsh. And it looks like I'm being mean and exclusionary. And so they'll use that because to them, in their mind, it's the emotion behind it that matters, not the content. And then Hassan will go and say the exact same thing I did in the exact same way 2 hours later. But those people's hatred of me and the emotions, that was already there because it's parasocial. They don't like me like they like Hassan. Maybe they're into Hassan because they have a psychosexual attraction to him or whatever. If they don't have that same attraction to me, they're going to be focused more on the like other shit. I think I'm just going to start posting good takes from you because they are good takes. And if they trash you or me, I would tell them to back off from trashing Hassan's friend and colleague and make people enjoy content for leftists making good take. I honest to God think that you should. However, and just to finish this, some people think that I'm to blame for H3. That I'm to blame for H3. Now, it's completely insane. And obviously, I have nothing to do with H3's obsession of Hassan, but they blame me for it. I don't know why. It's batshit crazy. They think that I stirred up them more and I profited from the drama or something. And it's like H3 was going to go after Hassan because H3 is a Zionist. Like, it had nothing to do with me. And so that's where a lot of the hate, you know, a lot of people spread the idea that I was profiting from the misery of other people who were being like harassed by Ethan, that I was profiting from it. And so they kind of displaced their frustration toward Ethan onto me because, you know, they can harm me. They can't really harm Ethan. It's very weird. I don't know what to do about it. Like, I've tried to confront people. Whenever I've confronted anybody who says that stuff, they don't respond. It's very weird. All right, let's get back to the real shit.
So what's going on right now?
An ICE vehicle was spotted, so now we're going to confirm that they're ICE.
I'm on a seat, right?
Where are they? This car?
They're in front of me.
Dr. Brainslug, message the mods with some more information so we can look into it.
He just sit in the car.
We shouldn't approach the community.
I'm sure it's real or whatever. I don't let people post fundraisers to me in my chats because I can't vet them instantaneously. And a lot of you are good people who fall for scams. And so I don't want, and one of the things I learned, because I studied securities arbitration in law school. And one of the things about securities arbitration is you'll run across people who get scammed. And the thing about dealing with somebody who's been scammed is oftentimes they will hate the person that's telling them they've been scammed more than the scammer. So I have tried to not cause you to hate my guts by telling you too abruptly that you fell for a scam. Now, I'm not saying what you are trying to fundraise for is a scam, but a lot of people in this community have fallen for scams and then tried to promote those scams to the community. I don't want that to happen. So I have a rule against promoting fundraisers unless I vet it first. So you're not allowed to post fundraisers in my chat unless I approve it or in my Discord. A lot of Gaza fundraisers were scammers, but there are vetted organizations and fundraisers that we know are for real people and they're going towards real expenses. And that way, that is what I want the funds that you have available to go toward. I don't want them to go to some criminal who's evil.
Wallah, either I'm tweaking or that's them.
Hold on,
Sure, you okay?
Oh! your car is tinted. False alarm.
So all is well.
All is well. It was a guy saying, "I'm not ICE."
How do you regulate your emotions? Because the second there was a whisper of an ICE vehicle, everything I feel like just in the air in this car.
I still don't know the criteria for Discord, Mike. You join. ! Discord and you join. And then you fill in you click through the rules, you select pronouns if you want, and then you're in. It's very easy.
I felt for a second. There's times where I'm scared, but I'll still approach a vehicle. Like, it doesn't stop me or any of us showing up, and actually not only showing up, but putting ourselves in a position of just like almost like a barrier.
You don't need to join a Patreon first. No, I don't make you pay for my content.
Between them trying to get vulnerable people who don't speak the language fluently.
Are you scared?
Yeah, I have cameras now. Like,
is your Discord annoyingly scoldy types? No. There is a rule in my community saying we do not abide the tyranny of the annoying. If you are annoying, I will ban you. It's not Hoscord. I don't have a bunch of annoying mods that I don't pay attention to. My mods are cool people. They are not annoying. They're not like woke scolds. They're also not like I'm the radical and I'm the more radical and they're sitting in my Discord shitting on me 24/7. That's not how it goes. They're normal people that are normal.
You saw me. I got 2 cameras in my back. The fear is not stopping us from showing up. Yeah. So that's like the most important part. Just because I'm feeling scared doesn't mean I'm not going to show up. That's what they want. Yeah. They want us to be so scared that we don't come out. But in fact, we will continue to come out. We will continue to mobilize, and we will continue to protect our communities. It's like, how do we present danger to you when you're the one coming into our neighborhoods? And you're the ones, harassing our neighbors. It's kind of starting to seep into like almost our psyche, this level of like constantly being head on a swivel. What is that noise? Like, and a lot of the people that live here have already endured civil war, have already endured countries falling apart. Like, so these are people who are already living through PTSD that are now being further terrorized.
The Trump administration has really been vilifying the Somali community in Minneapolis. What would you say about that?
The saying, like, go touch grass.
Yeah.
If you get stuck online and you get stuck with these narratives, like you tend to get in a bubble. And like for me, I've just been like, anytime I see those headline news where we have people in power telling me about my community or spreading hateful narratives about us, I go out and I organize. I go out and I get tea for my neighbors. It is really one of those things where you have to challenge yourself to rise above the noise. That's all I could say for people. Like, truly, if you are confused and you feel confused, like, okay, I'm hearing all this fraud surrounding Somali people, or I'm hearing all of these things surrounding Somali people, I want to maybe encourage you to go talk to a Somali person.
Minnesota reformers riding in the car with community patrols. The Trump admin gutted nearly every overdose-related grant program last night, as well as drug court systems. Yeah, I saw that. We can't stop winning. This is the world where I win. The world where somebody like Destiny wins was America under Joe Biden. A world where somebody like Asmongold wins is right now under Donald Trump. This is what it's like when Hassan and I win.
Good morning, New York. It's a great day to learn, no matter your age. Last week, we announced we won more than $100 million in new funding to make 3K truly universal. And today is a great day to sign up.
If your child is turning either 3 or 4 this year, you can enroll them for the fall in 3 easy ways. You can go to myschools.nyc. That's the easiest way to apply. Second, you can also call this number and apply on the phone. Finally, you can visit one of our NYC Schools Family Welcome Centers to apply in person. Don't let this application window slip by. You have until February 27th to sign up.
Because the building blocks for your children's future begin with universal pre-K and 3K. Good morning, New York.
Remember when people were saying it was impossible? Remember how I told you guys time and time again that it's actually very easy? We know how to fix these problems. That has been a message of my stream since day fucking 1. You get somebody, and I can see the grays are starting to pop out, Zoran. Welcome to middle age, Zoran. Speaking of Zoran, have we done a Rip Bozo on this yet? Oh, yeah. A settlement with New York Attorney General Letitia James has effectively forced Beitar US, the New York-based extremist organization, to shut down its nonprofit operations in the state. The agreement bars Beitar from instigating or encouraging violence, harassment, or intimidation after investigators found a sustained campaign targeting Arab, Muslim, Palestinian, and Jewish New Yorkers. As part of the settlement, Beitar told the AG's office it is dissolving its nonprofit and winding down operations in New York and faces a suspended $50,000 penalty if it violates the terms. Talia Jade reported for DropSite on how some members of Beitar use WhatsApp group chats to plan counter-protests against pro-Palestine demonstrators and commit potential hate crimes against Muslims in New York City. Full report is below. Share this in your group. Leave bad reviews. Whatever color you like, but you need to be careful. They are borderline illegal. You can't point in the sky. So they were getting laser pointers to shine in people's eyes. I like that they included the detail they targeted Jews as well. Of course they did. Any books you recommend that accurately describe historical rebellions like what we're heading in now? I'm actually thinking about spending some time studying some of... I've put this off, but I've never read... and this is embarrassing, but I never read Che's manual on guerrilla warfare. So I need to do that. I've read Leninist shit, I've read Mao stuff, but it's old. It's out of date. Like, the one problem we have in the socialist space is that people are reading manuals from like 1917 and going, this is how we organize a rebellion in 2026. And it's like, we need to develop our own irregular strategy. And like, we live in a very unique environment where people are... I sent you a DM on Twitter, but I'd love to get one more shot. I'm working on getting my USMCA compliance when I can start shipping to the US again. I want to include Know Your Rights cards in my American orders. Can you point me to any resources to provide accurate information? Did we just have somebody linking red cards yesterday? I think Zoran is putting together something. Look at what Zoran has put together if you want my like very quick tip. Rob Lowe's Rico's Guerrilla Warfare and Introduction. Oh no. There it is. UAW statement on suspended worker. I think one of the things that we need to learn is drone and counter drone. I think that's where like guerrilla warfare discussions are really behind the times. Okay, chat. I want to talk about this. Oh my God. Trump got heckled and it's so fucking funny. So hold on. Let me see if I can let me find this. Because it's really funny. Trump got so fucking mad. Pedophile protector. He said, fuck you. Trump was pointing at a guy and saying, fuck you. He was so mad. He was so fucking mad. Okay, Luna, thank you. You're gonna get us in trouble. And so apparently the guy got in trouble from Ford for calling Trump a pedophile protector. Statement on Ford plant visit from VP Laura Dickerson, Ford Department Director. The auto worker at the Dearborn truck plant is a proud member of the Strong and Fighting Union, the UAW. He believes in freedom of speech, a principle we wholeheartedly embrace, and we stand with our membership in protecting their voice on the job. The UAW will ensure that our member receives the full protection of all negotiated contract language, safeguarding his job and his rights as a union member. Workers should never be subjected to vulgar language or behavior by anyone, including the President of the United States. Maybe that workers should behave on the job site. This is what peasant-brained conservatives are like. If you're in a union, you could go tell the president or a politician visiting your work site to go fuck themselves. If you're not in a union, you have to act like a fucking serf on your knees. Dude slandered the president. He is a pedophile protector. He literally is. He said he wished Ghislaine Maxwell well. Yeah, we talked about that, Dave. Oh, he has a GoFundMe? Is this actually his GoFundMe? As the organizer, I am a longtime personal friend of the family. Okay, that's not. Can someone in the family like come out and endorse this? I don't like to endorse random GoFundMes, chat, because they could be scams. So if he has come out and said, if the worker has come out and said, "Hi, I'm the worker and this is me," and it's like a vetted, then I would support it. But I don't like people falling for GoFundMe scams. Did GoFundMe verify it? Oh my God, this is amazing.
New video shows federal agents arriving at a popular Minneapolis restaurant, but employees in the community stood in their way. Now neighbors say they continue to step up with those kinds of actions. Jason Rantola has the story.
We defended this community.
Surveillance video shows several men exit an SUV outside Rectangle Pizza in South Minneapolis.
And they stormed up on our door to try to get in.
But Rectangle Pizza co-owner Brianna Evans says employees and community members chased off those ICE agents after they tried to enter her restaurant Monday afternoon. Video appears to show those agents leaving, but not before deploying chemical agents. Kicked right back.
We probably put a target on ourselves with that by helping people, which is sickening.
The visit comes after a Rectangle Pizza fundraising campaign for nonprofits.
You guys have donated over $83,000.
In addition to donating pizzas for each customer purchase for people impacted by the increased ICE presence. Just down the street, community members like Sid King,
if ICE is going to stay here, then I'm going to stay here.
Stand guard outside Smitten Kitten on the lookout for ICE.
We're sticking together as a community.
Inside that shop, an outpouring of support for immigrant neighbors.
We have people calling us from all over the world trying to help.
Donations pouring in, food and household goods for people trapped in their homes.
At one point, the store was just full, as are all the neighboring businesses.
So many donations that neighboring business, Twin Cities Leather, located inside the Umbra Arts building,
and I literally just took a broom and pushed everything to the back wall.
Made extra space.
48 hours ago, this room was filled taller than me with donations from the community.
Community members sending a strong message.
Minneapolis strong. Community first. They don't belong here. They're not this community. They're not what we believe in. We support and love each other, and you can see from that video exactly what happens when they try to with us.
In Minneapolis.
For the last 14 years of my political effort, I've been trying to get people to say that second part. I'm all about love. I'm all about community. But for solidarity to have meaning, the porcupine must have its quills. And for the longest time, the left, so-called in America, has been a naked mole rat. It's time for us to start getting prickly. Your hate must be pure.
It's Jason Rantola, WCCO News.
Rectangle is now reduced its hours to have more staff present for each shift.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We begin
Calm down, Shadow. I'm just saying, you have to be able to push back. And we need to stop waiting for institutions to rescue us. They're not going to rescue us because you've elected Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. Like, well, you elected soft, capitulating compromisers. Oh, and guess what? They're capitulating and they're compromising. Did you see they want to get rid of dual citizenship? I will have to get married or have my life upended.
Today's show in Minnesota, where protests continue as the Trump
looks like that GoFundMe's legit, chat.
Administration sends more federal immigration agents into the region in what local officials have likened to an invasion. It was a week ago today when an ICE agent fatally shot Renee Good, a 37-year-old mother of 3 and an award-winning poet. This is a brief snippet of the scene outside the Whipple Federal Building in St. Paul Tuesday, where masked, armed agents repeatedly attacked protesters.
You're not going to say anything? You're not going to say anything! Get on the ground! Get back! Get back! Get back! Get back! You're just gonna shoot! Take off your mask if you're so tough! Take off your mask!
What a fucking queen.
The Minnesota Star Tribune reports the number of federal agents now in the Twin Cities dwarfs the size of local police. The size of the federal force is expected to soon reach 3,000 officers. That's bigger than the 10 largest metro police departments combined in the Twin Cities. On Monday, the state of Minnesota and the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul sued the federal government. This is Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison.
Deployment of thousands of armed, masked DHS agents to Minnesota has done our state serious harm. This is, in essence, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities and Minnesota, and it must stop. DHS agents have sown chaos and terror across the metropolitan area and in cities across the state of Minnesota.
To see our interview with Attorney General Ellison, go to democracynow.org. There is also growing opposition from within the federal government to the Trump administration's tactics in Minnesota. 6 federal...
Looks like Ken just dropped a pretty big bomb. Yeah. I'm looking.
Prosecutors in the Minneapolis U.S. Attorney's Office have resigned over the Justice Department push to investigate the widow of Renee Good. That's Becca Good. In Washington, D.C., 5 senior prosecutors in the criminal wing of the Justice Department Civil Rights Division have resigned in protest over the DOJ's decision not to investigate the ICE agent Jonathan Ross, who fatally shot Renee Good. We're joined now by Hwa Jung Kim, Vice President of the St. Paul City Council, also member of the Immigrant Defense Network. Thank you so much for being with us. First off, can you talk about the lawsuit that's being heard in court, the significance of what St. Paul and Minneapolis, called the Twin Cities for our global audience, is demanding right now? The ICE force dwarfing the number of police in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is that our constitutional observers and the firsthand accounts of our neighbors is working. We are providing evidence that shows just indiscriminate, unconstitutional violence coming from federal agents in the Twin Cities.
So what exactly, Hwa Jung Kim, is the St. Paul City Council calling for now? We just heard that last clip of protests when people are saying, take off your masks. I mean, the issue of everything from the Minneapolis mayor saying, get the F out of Minneapolis to ICE, to talking about what they're allowed to do in the city. And what is your sense of the level of cooperation or not of the local police departments, Minneapolis and St. Paul being sanctuary cities?
Yeah, I mean, we have a separation ordinance that's been in place for many years, and the St. Paul City Council is looking at strengthening that language, just like the Minneapolis Council passed in their city recently. We unfortunately had an incident on Rose Street where residents and myself witnessed what we believe to be cooperation, where our St. Paul police officers helped secure a scene and help escort ICE agents out. So there is always opportunities to strengthen our laws and use every lever that we can to continue to protect our residents. And I think the lawsuit is very, very clear. We don't want ICE in our neighborhoods. They are violent. They are creating chaos and terrorizing our immigrant neighbors, and they are not keeping anyone safe. And in fact, they are bringing danger on our streets every single day.
Earlier this week, you wrote on Facebook, quote, to my North Enders, we're seeing a continuous presence of federal agents in our neighborhood. We've had additional community observers present throughout our neighborhood, and vulnerable folks should be very careful. Our neighborhood eyes and protection is working. It's working. We had several of our neighbors kidnapped today. Take precautions. Can you elaborate on why you're using the word kidnap and what precautions people can take?
They're racially profiling neighbors and just taking them off the street. We have accounts of folks walking down the sidewalk getting scooped up, neighbors getting pulled out of vehicles. And so it is not about whether or not they have a warrant. That has never been the case. It's always been about violent racial profiling in our streets. And so right now we're encouraging our neighbors to be really careful. I myself am carrying around 2 forms of ID. I'm a naturalized citizen. Neighbors are also considering not going to work, not sending their kids to school, not going grocery shopping, not going to the laundromat, the very simple things that just keep families going. Lack of childcare is incredibly important right now for families. So we're really hoping to tap into those mutual aid networks to support families in this time. It's difficult as someone that's watching and hearing and is very tapped into rapid response to hear the number of people that are taken every hour here in the Twin Cities, in good conscience to tell folks that it feels safe to walk out on your street today.
In addition to the massive influx of ICE agents, you have now, President Trump said they're revoking TPS status for Somalis. You have a large Somali community in the Twin Cities, and that they will also denaturalize Somali citizens, and they're going to do mass deportation? What do you understand is going on here? They would have to leave by February, he said.
So many of our Somali neighbors are citizens. And so I think this is an incredibly dangerous tactic as we see them attempt to strip away TPS statuses for many communities. And many folks know here in the Twin Cities, Somali folks are incredibly important to the fabric of our neighborhoods, and not just because of the value that they bring, but because they are humans and that deserve dignity and protection. And the vast majority of our Somali neighbors are citizens.
It's 80% of Somalis are citizens in Minnesota. The reason why Trump is going after Minneapolis and going after Minnesota is because it is a example of where an immigrant community has assimilated and maintained their own cultural identity at the same time. And that's what they hate. Ilhan Omar represents a district that's mostly white. These are examples showing in America where your character is what matters, not your racial identity. Donald Trump is trying to, and Asmongold are trying to create a world where it's about being white. And I don't know about you, but the whitest places in this country, West Virginia, suck shit because it's not about your racial identity. It's about your class position. And West Virginians are treated like shit because they're poor. West Virginians' lives suck because being white doesn't give you a good school automatically by virtue of being white.
Can you tell us about the St. Paul mayor recently saying, I wasn't born here. I'm carrying my passport card and my ID with me all the time because I don't know when I'm going to be detained. Her family fled Laos for the United States when she was 3. Your response?
Yeah, Mayor Colliher is a close friend of mine. I myself, my partner is trans. We've been carrying around 2 forms of ID for many, many months, and it was a conversation that I personally had with her as well. Folks that look like us and look like our communities that we serve and our neighbors are very afraid right now. And even if you are a citizen and you are not white, it is an incredibly fearful event leaving the house every single day and stepping out onto the streets of our city. And yet we see a lot of our neighbors stepping up to make sure that we're protected, that we have eyes on each other, and that we're supporting each other to the best of our abilities in this really difficult time.
Faith and labor leaders and groups in Minneapolis are calling for a general strike January 23rd. Are you supporting this?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So much great organizing is coming from our labor unions. And even with SPFE, our teachers union stood up an incredible program to help protect our students. So yes, I'm incredibly supportive. I'm signed on and I plan on participating.
Final comment on the loss of the 6 experienced attorneys in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minneapolis who have all just quit, followed by 5 attorneys in the Civil Rights Division in Washington, D.C., because President Trump's former personal lawyer, Todd Blanche, has said they won't be doing a civil rights investigation into the death of Renee Good. If you can talk about the loss of this experience and these attorneys who would be involved with an investigation into Renee's death?
Yeah, I think a lot of folks are putting everything on the line to do what's right. I think what's resonating with me in this moment is seeing those resignations, knowing that there's a line in the sand that folks are unwilling to cross, because the bottom line that a lot of us feels that there's no one coming to save us. And that feels really scary, but also empowering, because if it's up to us and we draw the line in the sand and we have the ability to follow through and be accountable to our constituents to protect them and ensure that immigrant communities and families are safe, we should absolutely do everything within our power and everything within our privilege to do that. And so seeing them stepping down, I think, is an incredible sign of where the value set and the moral line is for folks right now that are attempting to keep our communities safe.
Roger and Kim, I want to
thank. And that we're not going to...
Go ahead.
We're not going to just step down. We're not just going to turn a blind eye, but we're doing everything in our power.
Hua-Jun Kim, Vice President of the St. Paul City Council, also a member of Immigrant Defense Network. Thanks for watching.
What a fucking queen. All right, chat. Ken Klippenstein has published an exclusive of secret ICE programs. Exclusive secret ICE programs revealed leaked documents detail dizzying scope of ICE operations. I get leaked documents, bigger media don't, because I'm not slowed down by corporate bureaucracy. But because of that, I don't have corporate money. I just have readers like you. Please become a paid subscriber so you can keep doing this work and for updates on this story. Ken Klippenstein is a king. Operations Benchwarmer, Tidal Wave, Abracadabra, Dust Off, Fleur de Lis. These are just a few of the secret programs recently undertaken by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE has become a self-appointed bouncer for America under Donald Trump, enlisting tens of thousands of federal, state, and local police and intelligence departments and agencies to not just root out illegals, but also exploit them for intelligence, leaked documents show. A Border Patrol official outraged by ICE's conduct has leaked to me this and other documents providing an unprecedented glimpse into ICE's undeclared activities across the country. Many of these operations and their code names have not been previously reported. A 15-page long document marked law enforcement sensitive details 21 different major ICE operations, resulting, so it says, in 6,852 apprehensions since June. From Operation Abracadabra, a covert effort to help develop informants among immigrants in detention, to Operation Benchwarmer, which alone spans the deployment of 2,000 intelligence assets across the country. The document gives a sense of how aggressively ICE is scouring neighborhoods and developing sources to spy on immigrants and Americans alike. The source was spurred into action by the absurd amounts of secrecy surrounding the operations and the utter failure of Congress to make many of them public. The secrecy has concealed ICE's transformation into a parallel FBI, a DEA, and an independent police force whose mission has crept well past the deportations that media tend to focus on. The media is telling a certain story about ICE, giving the blow-by-blow on the most public horrors, but never quite seeing the bigger picture that is part of a larger war. As a military intelligence source told me, the ICE crackdown isn't just about immigration. It's about gathering intelligence in support of Trump's war on cartels, as well as on Antifa, the radical left, and those who are, quote, anti-American, and anyone else they consider terrorists. And since the administration has been so quick to label everyone, including Renee Good, terrorist, it's no wonder they think they're at war. ICE's work is done under a set of task forces, with the agency calling upon other Department of Security agencies like Border Patrol, Homeland Security Investigations, the Federal Protective Service, and even the Secret Service. DHS now constitutes the largest federal law enforcement agency in the country, larger even than the FBI. And that was before ICE had its law enforcement budget nearly tripled last year. Operation Abracadabra was initiated with the requirement of interviewing 100% of individuals apprehended to gather intelligence and identify follow-on targets such as stash houses and individuals conducting illegal activity. The purpose, it continues, is tying every individual who crosses the border illegally to a foreign terrorist organization, a transnational criminal organization, and or utilizing the intelligence to develop targets. Another briefing about Operation Benchwarmer reveals the employment of agents dressing in plain clothes to disguise themselves as ordinary people in an attempt to gather intelligence. Plainclothes agents have been embedded in transport vans, sally ports, processing areas, and detention cells to gather important tactical intelligence and information. The purpose is focused on collecting information not normally gained during formal interviews. This national security colossus, over 20 years in the making, plays an intimate role in many of the ICE operations you read about, and many you don't. Yesterday, I reported on the deployment of hundreds of Border Patrol agents to Minneapolis, Minnesota, to support ICE operations there in the wake of an ICE agent's killing of Renee Good. My source's motive in large part pertains to the lack of a big picture public understanding of ICE's larger war. That's by design, thanks to the lack of transparency on the part of DHS and a Congress unwilling to compel transparency. Things as basic as ICE's use of force policy, its use of deadly force policy, are almost completely blacked out so the public can't see them. Opposition to ICE's conduct following Renee Good's death has been spread throughout the Department of Homeland Security. As I previously reported, the discontent is also affecting the Justice Department, with several top federal prosecutors in Minnesota resigning over pressure to investigate Renee Good's widow. Meanwhile, the FBI is itself increasingly split, the political part reportedly investigating Good's ties to activist groups that the Trump labels extremists. So this is what's happening, chat, is that ICE is becoming and DHS are becoming the federal Gestapo. Exactly what we warned would happen. This is exactly what we warned would happen. It was called turnkey despotism. 11 years ago. What do people mean when they say we live in a turnkey totalitarian surveillance nation state? They mean the NSA and its assumed willingness to subject it to it makes the United States ready for a dictator to seize control. I think the polite thing is to say it's a hyperbolic objection to the actions of the NSA. Was it hyperbolic? The Drew, you dumb fuck. I gotta find out if this guy's still posting. He is! Oh, I need to find out more. All right, sorry, we're not going to get distracted by some random Redditor from post 12 years ago. Sorry. But other parts of the FBI, sources say, are also alarmed by ICE's heavy-handedness and its creeping takeover. One senior FBI official tells me that there is widespread concern that ICE's actions are coloring the American public's view of law enforcement in general. The source says that enforcing the law demands scrupulous adherence to the law in doing so, and fears that ICE has abandoned such a fundamental principle, believing through masking and its belligerence toward the public that the law doesn't apply to it. Operation at Large is ICE's nationwide operation to significantly increase the number of illegal alien arrests with final orders of removal. Operation Los Angeles is to support ICE ERO with immigration enforcement and related riots protests. At one point, USBP had Border Patrol had 367 personnel deployed to Los Angeles to provide support to ICE in multiple areas. They apprehended 474 people while having 367 personnel there. I mean, can you see the scale of the waste? Operation Tidal Wave. Operation Tidal Wave involves ICE, HSO, ERO collaborating with federal, state, county, and local law enforcement partners to participate in immigration-related enforcement operations. These operations focused on traffic stop interdictions and roadside assistance calls from local partners. So we're now encouraging a situation where people flee from traffic stops. Operation Fleur-de-Lis is an operation with federal partners in New Orleans. Operation Zulu Shield. Operation Zulu Shield is a nationwide immigration enforcement operation with multiple iterations throughout U.S. cities. USBP's Special Operations Group collaborates with ICE HSI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, National Targeting Center, and National Gang Unit to target illegal aliens with various levels of criminal history. Operation Florida, 3 apprehensions. Operation Washington, D.C., 24. San Antonio, Texas, 2. I mean, 10 personnel deployed to the U.S. Virgin Island and caught 2 people. The amount of waste that we're looking at is unbelievable. Operation Dust Off. Total apprehensions, 8. Operation Steadfast. Total apprehensions, 1. This is the leader of the ICE tactical commander. 4 in the city of Houston, a city of 8 million people. And he's the Border Patrol. He's the extremist guy that I've been talking about in the Border Patrol. He's not even in ICE. Border Patrol commander says 90 to 95% of Minnesotans support immigration crackdown. You understand how batshit crazy and insane this statement is? CBS News published it as a headline. People are scared to death about what's going on in the streets of Minneapolis, Murphy said. What do you say to those people who are genuinely worried? Sure, those individuals are worried if they're United States citizens or legal permanent residents or have some type of legal status to be or remain here in the United States. There's no reason to be scared. However, if they are a criminal alien or an illegal alien, then they should probably be very scared. This is what CBS News is putting out.
The head of ICE operations in Minnesota describes the current situation in the Twin Cities very differently than many local political leaders and protesters. Esme Murphy sat down with Greg Bavino yesterday for his perspective and that of the Trump administration. Glad you have more on this, Esme.
All right, thank you, Frank. Border Patrol Commander Greg Bavino says the ICE operation here is being beefed up to make ICE agents and the community safer. I asked him about all the people here that are frightened. People are scared.
I mean, CBS News is such a pathetic disgusting, wormy organization at this point. I don't know how anybody participates in this shit. I don't know how you don't just quit.
Here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report, I'm Amy Goodman. What happens when ICE hires agents with minimal screening, then sends them into the streets, masked and armed? We look now at the agency's hiring practices as it surges agents to Minneapolis and other cities. We begin.
Chat, Etrov suffered internal bleeding to the torso. Guys, they're going to say bruising is internal bleeding. That's how they're going to say. It's like if you have a bruise on your arm, technically it's your capillaries bleeding within your skin. So that's internal bleeding. These people, these Zionists are so used to lying.
In with an independent journalist who applied for an ICE job and was offered it without even a background check. Laura Jadid wrote about her experience in a piece published Tuesday by Slate magazine headlined, "You've heard about who ICE is recruiting. The truth is far worse. I'm the proof," was the headline. She begins her piece, "The plan was never to become an ICE agent. The plan when I went to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Career Expo in Texas last August was to learn what it was like to apply to be an ICE agent. Who wouldn't be curious?" she said. Laura Jadid joins us now from Portland, Oregon. Laura, would you take it from there? Explain what exactly you did, what this fair was, and then how you applied to work for ICE and what happened.
Absolutely. So the hiring event, basically, you brought your resume in, you handed it over, they were going to do an interview, and they were promising on-the-spot hiring to where you could, in fact, walk out with your $50,000 bonus that day, possibly. I went in, I handed in my resume, which was, I did a skills-based resume. I'm a veteran. I served 2 tours in Afghanistan. So on the surface, the resume looked pretty good. Had a very brief interview, took all of 6 minutes. They didn't ask very many questions. And then I left, assuming I would never hear back, because I'm a very Googleable person. I have an unusual name. I'm the only Laura Jadid on the internet. And I make no secret of how I feel about ICE and Trump and all of it. So I was not expecting several days later to receive a tentative offer. I missed it in my inbox and it sunk to the bottom, which means that I never filled out the paperwork they requested. I never accepted the tentative offer. I never filled out my background check paperwork. I never signed the affidavit saying I committed no domestic violence crimes, none of it. A few weeks later, I got a message from LabCorp saying that ICE wanted me to do a drug test, and I went ahead and did that. I was pretty sure I wouldn't pass. I'd partaken in legal cannabis 6 days before the test, but why not waste some of their money, right? And then 9 days after that, I decided I wanted to, I was curious, had they processed the drug test yet? So I logged onto the ICE hiring portal, and what I found was that not only did the drug test not seem to be relevant, I was listed as having joined ICE as of 3 days earlier. I had listed that I had accepted the offer. They had offered me a final position as a deportation officer. My background check was listed as completed 3 days in the future from when I was looking at it. So it seems like the answer to the question, who are they hiring, is they don't know.
Wow. You write in the piece, at first glance, my resume has enough to tantalize a recruiter for America's Gestapo in waiting. You're likening ICE to the Gestapo?
Absolutely. And I don't think that's in any way hyperbole. We have armed, masked thugs on our street right now who are brutalizing, detaining, and murdering people with apparent impunity, a carte blanche, a license to kill from our government. And they can't even keep track of who's behind the masks. I don't believe for a second they're keeping track of who's a U.S. citizen, who needs to be deported, where these people even are. These disappearances where people vanish into the system, is it on purpose, or are they really that sloppy with paperwork? Ultimately, it doesn't matter. This constitutes a national emergency. We have unknown armed thugs in masks who are terrorizing citizens.
So you have served in the military. You deployed twice. Can you talk about what that experience taught you? And also, you did do an interview with an agent, and I'm wondering if you could tell us what that agent said to you and where that went.
Absolutely. So I joined the military right out of high school. I really believed in the whole war on terror thing. I really thought we were going over to spread freedom and democracy and what have you. And when I got there, it became very evident very quickly that that was not the case and that we were doing it was a bad war and we should not have been there telling people what to do. I was in eastern Afghanistan for the first deployment, western Afghanistan for the second. So I did not see combat, but as a military intelligence collector, I saw plenty of the decisions that got people killed on both sides that didn't need to happen. So I came back very disillusioned, like a lot of people, and actually like the ICE agent that I spoke to, which, by the way, this interview wasn't actually part of the hiring process. It was an optional step to see if I wanted to join up. But he told me that he was also joined right out of high school. He also deployed. And when he got back, he also got out as soon as he could. He didn't want anything to do with the military. But he had a lot of trouble assimilating, as a lot of veterans do. And so about 6 months later, he decided to go for law enforcement. And the rest is history. He's been an ICE agent, he said, for about a decade. He likes the work. He feels like he's getting instant results, and is very sad to me and also emblematic of a problem we have where we use this language of terrorism and weapons of mass destruction and freedom and democracy at the barrel of a gun. We did this overseas, and it's come home in every conceivable way.
Talk about your concerns about them not doing a background check. I mean, what does this mean for people who are documented to, well, wife beaters, people kill women?
Yeah, I mean, it's very funny that they hired a lefty journalist with a profile on Antifa Watch. That's hilarious. But what's not funny, they didn't make me sign a domestic violence waiver. So how many people with domestic violence convictions are running around with guns in our cities terrorizing people? How many people who have been committed of sex crimes or crimes against children are in charge of detention centers where there's no oversight, where people won't be missed and won't be believed? The horror, it boggles the mind how bad this really is.
And you were hired to be a deportation officer. What exactly is that? Where would you serve?
Yeah, so yes, deportation officer. Basically, the agent was very keen on letting me know that I wouldn't be given a badge and a gun right away. I wouldn't be out in the street messing people up. I would probably have to push paperwork for about 6 months before I got there. And when I expressed that that was fine with me, with my analyst background, he actually, the atmosphere changed. He was like, no, listen, we want everyone on the street with guns eventually. And I had to reassure him that that was also fine. It seems like the focus is very much getting people out on the street with guns, and the focus of the people applying, apparently, is to get out on the street as quickly as possible to brutalize people.
I'll just end by asking you, you said you signed up to fight the war on terror, and you served twice in Afghanistan. You call what's happening here in the United States the war on terror come home.
Yes. It is very sad. It is not surprising, but it is very sad. This is a national emergency. This is a state emergency. And frankly, it's past time that governors called up the National Guard to protect the citizens who elected them to keep them safe from the people actually terrorizing us in the streets.
Laura Jadid, I want to thank you for being with us, freelance journalist who writes regularly on her Substack at firewalledmedia.com. We'll link to your new piece for Slate, which is headlined, "You've heard about who ICE is recruiting. The truth is far worse. I'm the proof." We'll link to it at democracynow.org. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more,
they want these people with domestic abuse convictions on the street because it's just more unhinged agents to it. They don't care. They're desperate for anybody. They're desperate to get anybody, and they want to reward unemployed Trump supporters. They're using the lumpen proletariat of the right. Mike, thoughts on apply to commit subterfuge? I think that would be you would be putting your name next to SS agents for all time. You'll be associated with that. If you're willing to self-sacrifice on behalf of, that's the reality. It was not Hitler or Himmler who abducted me, beat me, and shot my family. It was the shoemaker, the milkman, the neighbor who received a uniform and then believed they were the master race. It's actually insane how the entire stream community is now alienated against Hassan because of the dog collar bullshit. Why am I watching a Subreddit stream and he's on LS7 and he says, so what, Hassan is still that I was watching a Dota stream and it's the same bullshit? Because it's propaganda and lies that Hassan did not, and I blame him for this, did not properly counter. And he's let Destiny and Dan Saltzman slander people for decades, including him, or for a better part of a decade now. And he hasn't done anything about it. Like, ultimately, he has the resources to go after these people. Like, I don't know what else to say. And it went viral the first time, so they're just trying to re-up it. Like, that's it. It went viral, so they're trying to go viral again with it. Like, it is what it is. And by the way, if anybody's pushing it, they're a right-winger, right? Like they're just exposing themselves as a fascist supporter of Trump. That's like they're doing it not because they're apolitical, but because they are political. You just need to kind of learn to accept that as a fact. And if you like somebody who does that, well, they've exposed themselves as a right winger. Yesterday, he praised DGG. He's never going to understand. It is what it is, man. Let's just say I disagree with Hassan on that point. If you don't understand that some people are just your enemies, you know, it is what it is. Oversight, I already know about that. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything, but thank you.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. We look now more at how ICE is recruiting thousands of new deportation officers. A report by the Washington Post shows ICE plans to spend $100 million for a, quote, wartime recruitment strategy that targets gun rights supporters, military enthusiasts through online influencers, along with people who've attended UFC fights, listened to far-right podcasts, or shown interest in guns and tactical gear. It uses the ad industry technique known as geofencing to send ads to people near military bases, NASCAR races, college campuses, or gun shows. Some of ICE's recruitment ads appear to refer to white nationalist slogans or openly quote them, after ICE agent Jonathan Ross killed Renee Good in Minneapolis. An ad on ICE's Instagram account claimed, quote, "We'll have our home again," and featured a song popular among white nationalists with lyrics about reclaiming our home by blood or sweat. Our next guest is investigative reporter Ken Klippenstein. He has a new report headlined "Immigration Agents Terrified of ICE Backlash After Shooting" that includes leaked documents showing ICE and Border Patrol are seeking volunteers for the surge in operations in Minneapolis, with one agent saying, quote, "Key word is it's on a voluntary basis. If no experienced senior agents step up, they send the new guys straight out of the academy. Not a good idea," unquote. Welcome back, Ken. Lay out what you found.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me. Well, one of the most surprising parts of reporting on this was seeing the disjunct between the Department of Homeland Security's public-facing description of the shooting, this bravado they had, Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem immediately labeling her a terrorist and pretty much dragging her corpse through the streets as she, sullied her name in the public consciousness, again, within just a couple of hours of the shooting. And then you talk to people that work for Homeland Security privately, and a very different picture emerges. They're very conscious of the protests that are taking place in Minneapolis. They're very concerned about it. And there's splits within the agency about the shooting itself and the general mission. The reason they are going to these volunteers is because they're worried about sending more experienced agents there who might not agree with the mission. And none of that is stuff you hear when you look at the public-facing officials in the Trump administration describing these incidents and the department.
Talk about the budget, the massive increase in the budget that, by the way, could lead to another government shutdown by the end of the month, right? Because you have people like Chris Murphy, the Democratic senator who heads the subcommittee on Homeland Security, saying they're not going to endorse this budget. On Tuesday, the Congressional Progressive Caucus vowed to oppose new funding for the Department of Homeland Security unless it includes new reforms. This is Congressmember Ilhan Omar of Minneapolis.
We cannot and we should not continue to fund agencies that operate with impunity, that escalate violence, and that undermine the very freedoms this country claims to uphold.
And meanwhile, Tuesday evening, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut and others joined hundreds of protesters outside D.C. headquarters of Customs and Border Protection, said he supports the appropriations bill to push for changes at ICE.
The United States Congress should not fund a Department of Homeland Security that is not obeying the laws of the United States of America.
Ken Klippenstein, are we seeing some changes in Democrats' positions here?
Absolutely. Among Democratic voters, among Congress, there is some opposition, but among congressional leadership, they've made it very clear that they're not willing to shut down the government over this. They asked Senator Cory Booker this, for instance, yesterday on MS Now, and he said no, the last shutdown didn't work. Chuck Schumer had to be dragged kicking and screaming to even do the shutdown earlier this year to play hardball with the Republicans after he folded instantly at the beginning of the second Trump administration. So there are definitely splits within the caucus, but among leadership, there's opposition to the idea. That being said, among the public, there's been a sea change an opinion with respect to ICE and the deportations. Where there was more openness to it when Trump first came into office, that picture has completely flipped, and it's a deeply unpopular proposition. And that's what the opposition among the Homeland Security officials that I interviewed for my story are reflective of. They're part of the public too, to some extent, and they also are seeing all the same videos that we're watching, seeing the same protests, seeing the same public sentiment, and they have a lot of the same feelings about it, particularly the older, more experienced agents who are not the beneficiaries of this tidal wave of funding. I mean, they have more money than they know what to do with. They have tripled ICE's law enforcement budget, and the reason they're doing all of the, you described in the previous segment, the lengths to which they're going to try to staff up. The reason for that is, again, they have more money than they know what to do with, and they need to fill those roles, and they're doing everything they can to create them so that the actual personnel headcount can match the resources that they have.
Ken, you've also read ICE's deadly force documents that you say, quote, are bureaucratically dense and elastic to the extreme, offering every...
I think one of the things that really, needs to be said is that unless we abolish ICE and we actually put some sort of sanction on serving in ICE, that our entire policing culture will integrate these ICE agents into them. It will be seen as a resume bump for getting hired at the FBI or get hired at Border Patrol or get hired at Secret Service or whatever, is if you spent time as an ICE agent. Unless ICE is abolished and it is sanctioned, meaning anybody who served in ICE is ineligible for serving in other federal law enforcement, it's just going to get worse. And I don't think the Democrats are ready to have consequences for people that served as fascists.
Every possible excuse for ICE's killing of Renee Good, but they're also stark in their failure to address any aspect of the dramatically new environment created by ICE's expanded mission. What do they reveal, these documents?
This was maybe the most alarming part of this entire story for me, was seeing that they have not changed the use of force policies for ICE whatsoever since Trump came into office, despite the fact that, again, they have tripled the budget for the enforcement part of it. And in addition to that, just militarized the entire thing. They're wearing masks. They're being deployed in states where the majority of the state population doesn't support them. They're being used in a far more aggressive, sweeping, and ambitious manner than ever before. So you would think that there would be some kind of reflection of that in policy, at the very least, not just to protect the public, but to protect them as well. There's nothing in its use of force documents, which you can go on my newsletter and read in full, that addresses protesters, civil unrest, even rioters, which Trump is always talking about. You can search for those words. None of those words appear in the document. And what's more, we only know what the document says because it was accidentally uploaded by the Trump administration over the course of a federal court litigation. The entire thing was blacked out, redacted until December of last year. And that's a failure on Congress's part for not compelling ICE to release these things and make them public, especially with an administration that made very clear that this is going to be its signature policy, these mass deportations.
Last question. You've done a lot of reporting on Trump's new presidential directive, NSPM 7, National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, a sweeping order that directs federal agencies to treat political dissent as a form of domestic terrorism, a term that Kristi Noem is throwing around right and left, accusing also the deceased, accusing Renee Good of domestic terrorism. Can you put these latest developments in perspective?
Yeah, so there's a straight through line from the shooting of Renee Good to NSPM 7, this presidential memorandum, that, as you said, redefined terrorism around a number of what are called indicators, because you have to terrorism is about pre-crime. You're trying to predict a crime before it has happened. That's what the word terrorism is for. And so how do you predict a crime? Well, you got to look at speech. And what are the speech indicators you're looking for? If you go and read the actual presidential directive, it literally says things like anti-Christian sentiment, anti-American sentiment, anti-traditional family sentiment, anti-capitalist sentiment. And it describes, one of the things it describes is anti-ICE protesters and sentiment, which is exactly what we saw. Moreover, the Justice Department released a sort of follow-on memo citing NSPM 7, and one of the things that it was concerned with was, quote, impeding or interfering with ICE operations, which is exactly what Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem and the Trump administration accused Renee good of doing by having her car parked in the middle of the road. So there is a straight line from NSPM 7 to the tragedy that we saw unfold last week.
And finally, you say ICE is okay with Renee Good's killing. Why?
Because its policy all but allows its ICE agents to carry these things out, and the only thing restraining them is their own perceived sense of being in danger. That is not a policy you have in place if you want them to carry out their responsibilities in a circumspect way. Because not only can they say whatever they feel they perceived, because we obviously can't, we don't have a window into their mind, but in addition to that, all the propaganda you've been describing earlier about them being deployed to war zones, and literally that's how they're recruiting ICE agents at that point, that creates a...
All right, chat, we have steak and eggs again. Wow. So how are we prepared this time? How was it prepared this time, Vio?
Hippo smile.
I honestly feel terrible because now this is what people expect. All the effort at hyping up Vio's cooking and one zappy boy. Oh, one zappy boy. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. How did you make it?
Psychological environment in which they genuinely believe that. And that has been another aspect of reporting on this that surprised me. They don't see it as rhetoric. They think that that's actually describing the conditions on the ground.
Why is your partner in your kitchen making food? Oh, this is something called love. One day you will hopefully experience it. One day you will have a partner who likes you enough to spontaneously do nice things for you without you asking. Very good, chat.
A war zone, as your previous guest described it, the war and terror come home. That is overwhelmingly...
Oh, Mike, I found the chatter that asked that question. Oh, no.
...believed by the younger cohort that's joining ICE now, and they need to be restrained by firmer policies than that their own perception was that they were in danger.
Ken Klippenstein, I want to thank you so much for being with us. Investigative reporter. We'll link to your recent articles at democracynow.org. Thanks for...
Very good. Vio won a Gordon Ramsay cooking show. True. That is true. Vio did win a Gordon Ramsay cooking show. Yeah, here's the... Can you open emotes? Hold on. Am I able to open this? Vio went on a show with Gordon Ramsay called Idiot Sandwich. And Vio won, so she became the Idiot Sandwich. So when I say Vio is a good cook, I mean, Gordon Ramsay agreed. Wait, for real? You don't know Vio is famous? All right, let's keep going. The majority report is finally saying what I've been saying. Sam Cedar, primary Chuck Schumer. Oh my God, there's so many videos. Joe Rogan goes full moron. I mean, obviously. Will Walz go full progressive? Who gives a fuck? He quit.
Chuck Schumer is in his classic mode, which is, I want there to be enough problems with Trump, but not so much that it actually comes to me. Chuck Schumer is like the guy or the kid who's playing baseball and is sitting out in the field, and he is just sitting there going, please don't hit the ball to me. 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 That's what Chuck Schumer's doing. The problem is that, like, you're the only person in the field. Like, the ball, if the ball's hit, you've got to deal with it.
Oh, this is good.
And he so desperately, Chuck Schumer went to bed every night for the past 5-6 weeks saying, please let there be no controversy until we get to this government shutdown vote. Please let there be no controversy until we get there. I don't want to be forced to actually exercise any of the leverage we have. Now, the House just passed an appropriations bill. Instead of doing it like in one big reconciliation thing, because they want to avoid that, they passed partial appropriations for, like, I think it was like the EPA, Interior, a couple of other agencies. More or less, there's definitely some cuts, but more or less, the equivalent of a continuing resolution.
Rejecting Trump's calls for more steep cuts.
But there still remains all the tricky things where the Democrats might have some disagreement with the Republicans.
particularly DHS. DHS is not in this, is not a Department of Homeland Security, aka ICE, obviously, not in this agreement.
And so you have the president of the United States just essentially, kidnapping another leader of a different country so that we could move the oil executives in and get their resources, which of course I think Schumer was like, well, it's not the way I would do it, but we have now DHS shooting people dead. You have one tool at your disposal to actually do anything, and that is we're going to cut the funding. Remember, DHS is getting hundreds of billions of dollars. They are going to be the wealthiest police force in the world.
ICE is the largest law enforcement agency by budget in the world, including in the United States.
They're bigger than some militaries. And he has the opportunity. What does he do? We have now seen this video over and over again, right? And there's a contention. On one hand, the Trump administration has told a total pack of lies based upon video that we can see. And on the other hand, Chuck Schumer says...
Senator Schumer, do you have any comment on the shooting in Minnesota, the ICE-involved shooting?
Well, I saw the video. It just turns your stomach. We need a quick and full investigation to get to the bottom of this. But when you have these ICE agents all over the streets of our cities without any cooperation with local law enforcement, local communities, tragedies, horrible tragedies, killings occur.
Wait. We need to get to the bottom of this? Where's the mystery? What's the mystery here? What is the mystery that we need to get to the bottom of? And what is he?
The answer is he's just trying to maintain the status quo, which means slowing things down because people have emotions and our body returns to homeostasis. You cannot remain in a state of heightened anger 24/7. It's just impossible. And over time, old information becomes less important to you. That's just the way your mind works. The Holocaust, 6 million Jews killed, horrible crime in history, right? 9/11, horrible, all those deaths. But now that you have the distance of time, you're not like sitting there seething and angry over the Holocaust and 9/11 anymore. You just can't be. It's a historical event. Nobody is holding Germans responsible for the Holocaust anymore. Nobody's like, I fucking hate the Germans because they did a Holocaust in 1945. That's not happening anymore because it's history. Chuck Schumer is trying to usher Renee Good's murder into history. That's where we've got to investigate, hold your horses, don't jump to conclusions, because he wants your anger to fade. Just like your anger has faded over George Floyd. Nobody's going out on the streets and protesting over George Floyd anymore. Nothing was fixed. Nothing was changed. George Floyd was murdered. So this is about calming the anger and preventing the creation of leaders that demand accountability. That's what Chuck Schumer is doing.
Talking about
tragedies
when you don't have cooperation. So wait, he has a problem with New York City being a sanctuary city? Like what is the law? Is this a problem of a lack of cooperation?
Wow.
From Minneapolis PD? If they had cooperated, what? Like, what the hell is he saying? Is he not aware that there is a paramilitary, 2,100 paramilitary fighters have been dropped into Minneapolis, a city of 450,000 people who are masked and seemingly have no accountability to anyone. And the problem is there's a lack of cooperation from what?
Can we play it again, actually? I'm sorry. I just want to get the passive language down here.
Senator Schumer, do you have any comment on the shooting in Minnesota, the ICE-involved shooting?
Well, I saw the video. It just turns your stomach. We need a quick and full investigation to get to the bottom of this. But when you have these ICE agents all over the streets of our cities without any cooperation with local law enforcement, local communities.
What? Chuck Schumer's like, I know a solution to ICE. Make local law enforcement help them. Mike, come to Portland if you want to meet the people who never stop protesting BLM. Okay, first of all, Jesus, I knew people were going to say shit like this. I should have known it. I should have known people were going to say shit like this. I knew they were going to say shit like this. I fucking knew they were going to say it. But thank you for doing it so I can now yell at anarchists again. In 2020, there were robust George Floyd protests all over the country that shut down downtowns, and then many of them devolved into riots and confrontations with the police, and it was visible civil unrest. Radical lefties bringing up his name years later is not the same thing as that. And I think you understand that. I don't really understand why you're trying to derail me from the point I'm making, which is very important, which is we have to keep the pressure on Chuck Schumer now while Renee Good's death is still fresh on everyone's mind. We need to demand movement immediately. The Democrats' #1 move is to just get everybody to calm down and slow down and wait. That's all they fucking do. And that is allowing Trump to implement his fascism. And yes, we're not at George Floyd levels yet.
Tragedies, horrible tragedies, killings occur.
You know what? You know, it's not a coincidence that he sounds exactly like some sort of Israeli official describing a child being killed in the West Bank or something like that.
It took no time for this to come back to us. I mean, Ta-Nehisi Coates put this up, Brian. Ta-Nehisi Coates' statement at the start of this, we are at a moment right now where people are asking themselves, why can't the Democratic Party defend against this assault on democracy? And I would submit that if you can't draw the line at genocide, you probably can't draw the line at democracy. You can't.
You can't.
And Chuck Schumer will never be able to.
And I mean, that's unbelievable. Lack of cooperation with local law enforcement. He's basically criticizing the city of Minneapolis and leadership there as well for essentially saying that cops should be more coordinating with ICE. That's the problem here, not the fact that they are functionally, as AOC said, we played this in the fun half yesterday. They are a paramilitary force, to your point, that is an anti-civilian force at this point. They shouldn't be cooperating with local law enforcement. Schumer should be empowering, through his rhetoric, local law enforcement to go after ICE.
Arrest them now.
Arrest them. His messaging, I mean, like,
The cops don't agree. What are you talking about? You don't have a police force that would obey orders. The Minnesota FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, just put out a statement in favor of ICE. You dumb liberals, I'm sorry. The cops are not going to arrest ICE because they are ICE. They agree with ICE. We need to form our own independent community defense organizations immediately. The institutions have failed. They are not going to be used to stop ICE. We're not going to be able to use the state police or the National Guard. It's not happening. Stop saying stuff like this.
Just want to emphasize this point in case people are just watching this clip and didn't see our interview with Jeet here. Elizabeth Warren is standing right next to him. She's a part of that so-called fight club that's in the Democratic Party right now in the Senate that supposedly is building up an alternative vision of leadership for the Democrats. The time is now. The time is now to call for his ouster. I know they're probably still building up the power that they need. They're still trying to get other senators on board. But my God, Republicans make a spectacle about their internal disagreement, and it has affected them nada electorally. Nothing. In fact,
it looks like democracy.
In fact, it looks like democracy. It's a performance of it. You get yourself in the news cycle, Trump sparring with other Republicans. They've rode that to success. Air this disagreement out publicly because it looks like you're responding to the overwhelming base that wants you to rein in these lawless thugs. The numbers on this are staggering. An over 20-point increase in abolishing ICE in less than a year. And that's what the leader of the Democrats saying. The problem is that local law enforcement isn't collaborating with ICE. So change the news cycle and show that you'll be an opposition party. Call for his ouster. I'm sorry if it's awkward in the meetings. I'm sorry if it's not the right time because we still have the partial budget negotiations over the appropriations. Actually, it might be the best time.
Well, that's the thing, is he wants to ignore the existence of what is happening because he has the ability to wage a fight to prevent the funding of DHS. I mean, yes. He has the ability to do this, and he doesn't want it. Is running away from any leverage he has deliberately. And so, we've got to be measured about this. We've got to be they have literally, understand, they did not shoot this person because they thought this person was a criminal, undocumented immigrant. They did not shoot this person because they thought this person was an undocumented immigrant. They did not shoot this person. They shot this person because they saw this person as a citizen who was pushing back against what they were doing.
Yep.
That means that, and they can take these steps. They've killed undocumented immigrants in their facilities.
Yeah.
We know that. They are just moving down the line. Anybody who gets in their way is going to face either being just scooped up, detained, shot, beaten, whatever it is. This is going on, and he is trying to hide from it. Does he have a problem with, here's Philadelphia DA Larry Krasner. Now, if Chuck Schumer says the problem is not enough cooperation from local law enforcement, does he have a problem with Krasner saying here?
If any law enforcement agent, any ICE agent, is going to come to Philly to commit crimes, then you can get the F out of here. Because if you do that here, I will charge you with those crimes. You will be arrested. You will stand trial. You will be convicted, whether it's in state or federal court. It's my office prosecuting it. That's how the law works. And you will do your time, because Donald Trump cannot pardon you for a state court conviction. Do you hear me, ICE agents? Do you hear me, National Guard? Do you hear me, military?
This is the Philadelphia DA that the Democratic Party centrists like Josh Shapiro have been trying to remove from office, even as the murder rate in Philadelphia falls faster than any other city in the country. Crime rate in Philadelphia cratering under a progressive DA's leadership. And the Democratic Party tried to work with the Republicans to impeach him. Ultimately, they failed. He was elected for a third term in a landslide. These are the people telling, and then you have people like, I'm sorry, but saying how they like Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro is your enemy. He's a fucking Republican.
You're going to jail if you commit crimes in the city of Philadelphia. You will be accountable. The law applies to all of you. And I know that there are honest, decent, moral law enforcement officers out there by the bushel, including in ICE. This is not for you. This is for any one of your colleagues who thinks they are above the law.
Understand that what that does, in the same way that these ICE thugs shooting a defense.
4 Democrats joined GOP lawmakers voting to investigate DA Larry Krasner. The House passed a resolution seeking to potentially impeach the controversial DA. Remember when this moron was going around saying Kamala would be the same as Trump? She absolutely would have been the same as Trump on many, many, many issues. But the main point was not that she was the same as Trump in every way. I never would say that because that's obviously false. In fact, I was hopeful and supportive of Kamala right after Biden dropped out until she demonstrated that she supported genocide. And I said, I am a tribune of the people. I am going to say out loud through my platform what regular people are feeling. They do not support the genocidal Democratic Party. If Kamala Harris wants to win, she has to seize the youth vote by standing up to the status quo, and she refused. And I told you what would happen, and I am a political prophet, not you. I called it perfectly. Now, you could be mad. It's authoritarian of you to say that the way to have a good country is to silence critics, to silence dissent. That's how we'll get our good outcome. If we just silence the dissent, you are an authoritarian. You are a totalitarian. You are a fucking loser. For Kamala Harris and the billionaires? You fucking scum. So the Democrats have tried to go after. They tried to impeach him. They passed impeachment. Among the 4 Democrats were 3 from the city of Philadelphia. State Reps Joe Owenstein, Kevin Boyle, and Ed Nielsen. The lone Republican dissenter, State Rep Mike Pusarek of Allegheny County, joined the majority of Democrats in voting against the measure. The centrist Democrats were trying to remove him. They said it would be a disaster. Homicides in Philadelphia dropped to lowest level in 60 years. DA Larry Krasner and others attribute the drop to gun violence prevention efforts, grassroots violence interruption work, and supportive programs for young people. Wait, Democrats were voting with Republicans to impeach him. Wait, what happened? Wait, I was told the progressive DAs were not going to work. I was told it wasn't going to work. I thought it was political suicide. What do you mean lowest level in 60 years? The left, not only, I mean, and by the way, do you see Democrats talking about this? Do you see Democrats going, actually, look at Philadelphia, progressive policies work. Homicide rate is to the lowest level in 60 years. He said he was going to hold police accountable for misconduct. He's standing up to ICE right now. Are they saying this should be America's next Pennsylvania senator? Are they saying we should have Larry Krasner? He is a success. He is a progressive success. The left is correct. Do you see that happening? Do you see anyone on the Democratic Party promoting this fact? What is going on here? We were told you could get childcare done in 8 days. We were told it was pie in the sky. That his plans of a rent freeze, of free buses, and free childcare were pie in the sky, impossible. He did it in 8 days. I was told George Soros' progressive DAs were going to lead to an overwhelming rise in murder and criminality, lowest level in 60 years. Why don't you admit you're wrong? Why aren't centrists admitting they're wrong? It's almost like they're against murder going down. It's almost that they're against children having health care or child care. Why would they be against it? Because they're the servants of billionaires. They don't care what works and what doesn't work. They do what doesn't work. They do what they are told by the billionaires. That's who they serve.
This woman in the face puts a
By the way, chat, if you enjoy this content, please consider supporting it by subscribing at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub. I haven't been chilling the last few days, which means we have not hit our goal of 8,000 subs and sub points. Please consider supporting the stream by subscribing. Every single time you subscribe, you're pissing. I want you to understand, you know how many centrists and how many right-wingers look at my channel and they fucking seethe? I have more subscriptions than Asmongold. You understand how much that makes them fucking seethe? When you support this channel, not only you are doing the most moral thing you could do, give me money. I hear the New York City mayor is going to pass a law to have free childcare. I might move. To be honest, that's so much of my income. He already did it. This was his announcement from this morning.
It's a great day to learn, no matter your age. Last week, we announced we won more than $100 million in new funding to make 3K truly universal. And today is a great day to sign up. If your child is turning either 3 or 4 this year, you can enroll them for the fall in 3 easy ways. You can go to myschools.nyc. That's the easiest way to apply. Second, you can also call this number and apply on the phone. Finally, you can visit one of our NYC Schools Family Welcome Centers to apply in person. Don't let this application window slip by. You have until February 27th to sign up. Because the building blocks for your children's future begin with universal pre-K and 3K.
That's it. Anyway, chat, if you support the stream, not only are you supporting me, you're pissing off all our enemies, and you're supporting members of our community that are working paycheck to paycheck. Parents of young children, college students, people on a fixed income because of retirement or disability, or just regular people struggling to make ends meet. You are giving them access to Twitch Rewind. So you come to the stream late, you can rewind the stream, watch it at 1.5 speed, 2 times speed, see the whole stream, catch up to live, and see what I've already covered. And you don't have to send a message about, Mike, did you cover this? Because you'll already know, because you'll go back, you'll rewind. If I'm sitting there, you know, because you'll have Twitch Rewind. You won't have to ask me if I covered something because you're gifting subs. So anyway, chat, Ham and Fist, thank you so much for the 20 gifted subs. You are the best. Thank you, Open Presents, for gifting 25 earlier. Right now, chat, we have a Hype Train level 7. The top sub gifter and the top bit donor get the Hype Train conductor badge, which is a golden locomotive next to your name. Let me tell you, when I see that locomotive, that gold or purple locomotive, I think that chatter, I like that chatter. It's the single best way to make me like you. Speaking of trains, China just posted this video about development they're doing in Africa. All these Hype Train conductor badges. is why they hate China. Because America brings debt, China brings development. That's it.
We've wanted to have on the show for a very long time. That is Representative Thomas Massey of...
Okay, maybe we'll watch that in a second. Hold on. Where the fuck is the video? Oh, okay. I'm malding, so we gotta finish this.
And scares other protesters, or is meant to scare other protesters. What that does is say there's accountability here that none of your bosses can save you from. Now, Chuck Schumer has the opportunity to say this type of thing too. Yep. If Chuck Schumer thinks in his mind that, well, we're going to take the House, maybe we'll take the Senate in the fall, you then have the ability, even putting aside his ability to shove a wrench in the gears of appropriations and money going to fund this. He has the ability to say, think twice, because the day after we get sworn into office, we're going to haul your bosses up and we'll haul individual agents in front of Congress.
Yeah.
And we will pass laws and we will hold you accountable. And it may take for 3 years from now, maybe it'll take 6 months, a year from now, but you will go to jail. There will be no forgiveness. There will be no forgetting here.
But the focus on the midterms, it's hard for me to know if it's an idea, if you're working backwards from your ideological predispositions to say that the midterms are the thing that you're focused on, or if you're genuinely convinced that standing up for your neighbors and immigrant communities is going to impact the midterms. Either way, the focus is so wrong, outdated, and has led us to this moment of fascism. When I had that debate on MSNBC with Catherine Rampell and the other guest that was like a centrist Republican or centrist Democrat or something like that, they were saying like, well, you have to focus on winning. How can you win in West Virginia without a Joe Manchin? Would you rather have a Republican in that seat? And my answer was that, well, if the Democrats had a different focus and it was more about delivering as opposed to winning on winning and governing like the way Zoran's doing it, winning, not just winning elections, hoping the ball isn't hit to us so that we can just white knuckle it until the midterms in 2026, then perhaps we wouldn't have this back and forth. We could have like actual sustained control.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, they don't want sustained control, because if they have sustained control, they have to pass policies. I think this is the point that I have. This is the point of our disagreement I've had with Majority Report for the better part of 7 years now. They believe that Democratic Party politicians, for the most part, want to do good. No, they don't. Maybe 30% of the elected Democrats want to do good. I need you to understand that as a fact, okay? They don't care. Now, I understand how difficult that is to hear. It doesn't mean that we can't get the 70% scum to vote for, vote for things that we want them to vote for. It just means they don't give a shit. And they'll only do it if they feel pressure to do it. If we gave the Democrats 100 senators and every single member of the House, and they were all Hakeem Jeffries, nothing would change. How do I know that? California exists. Do you think California's run well? Is California run well? Is California passing fucking Medicare for all? Is California actually doing anything? Is it got a high-speed rail? California is what the Democratic Party of today looks like. You have to understand that it isn't just about giving Democrats power. You have to have Democrats in power that are willing to do shit. That's it. 75 Democrats voted with the Republicans last summer to express gratitude to ICE. Sharice Davids. Oh my God, what a fucking fraud she is. Richie Torres, the poorest district in America. Chantel Brown. Sharice Davids and Chantel Brown and Wesley Bell. These are all anti-Bernie candidates of AIPAC, and they all love ICE. Jared Golden, Lucy McBath, Susie Lee, Marie Gustenkamp Perez. Like, what is going on here? Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Richie Torres. I mean, these districts are plus 50 Democrat.
Control over Congress and actually wield power. But what I really do think is that at this point, it really is ideological for Schumer.
He's a passive income politics. He just wants to benefit passively from all this stuff.
When it just really hit me when you see Zoran Mamdani go out on CNN and MSNBC and explain to people what sanctuary city policies are. For so long, it's been used as a, like, you hear it exclusively on the right, where they talk about it as like liberals being soft on crime in cities and all of that. We could have had a pushback Democratic national messaging campaign that would have empowered attorneys general and mayors across the country to make sure that the worst of this stuff was curbed a little bit, because there have been no national Democrats that have explained that sanctuary city laws are legally binding. It's about protecting citizens,
common sense,
and local officials standing up and saying, if you don't have a legal judicial warrant signed by a judge, you don't get to enter this space. And that's on the books. Why couldn't we have had national Democrats saying this? Why? Because Chuck Schumer doesn't believe in those sanctuary city laws. He just said it right there.
He's a collaborator.
He just said that he doesn't believe that there needs to be more collaboration with ICE. That's his problem with it. So that's essentially saying, like, you don't want to protect people. And that's part of the problem here. I mean,
it's almost the whole problem.
It's the whole problem.
And it should have been dealt with years ago. And the go back to 2016, people are like, oh, Chuck Schumer's going against Obama on the Iran deal. Is that going to hurt his political future? No, it cemented it. And Democrats need to address why that happened.
Roger from Ohio. I think Chuck Schumer is secretly a Republican. Bavarian fish tacos. Don't know if you saw body cam footage from the Minneapolis ICE agent who summarily executed poor Renee Goods somehow and totally unexpectedly showed up on an alt-right neo-Nazi website and is now circulating on the larger internet. Feel free to verify, but it's popped up in my socials twice now. Cole from Little Rock. If the guy who murdered a girl on camera has no accountability, as I can already see will be the case, you can believe that we'll be seeing more free use of deadly force. The guy threatening them with actual consequences is the only thing that will dissuade ICE agents at this point.
And you need to hear more from like Jacob Fry, like saying the F word, get the fuck out of ICE. You need to follow it up with, we are going to use political authority in our office to prosecute you.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not so saying F you is not as effective as
a jail.
Very politely saying you're going to face trial and you're going to go to jail and we will arrest you, sir.
That was annoying.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
One of the bluest states in the country gets us Jeffries and Schumer. It's mental. Every blue state is full of dog shit Democrats. Almost every deep blue district is full of dog shit Democrats. Like, that's the reality. They're building concentration camps, chat.
Here is how
Greenland meeting just ended. Danish Greenland leaders speak after meeting with U.S. officials as Trump threats grow. Jesus Christ.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen from the press. Minister Vivian Motzfeldt and I met with Vice President Vance and Secretary Rubio today. We came here following a number of, how should I put it, remarkable public comments on Greenland and Arctic security. Our aim was to find a joint way forward to increase Arctic security. What can the Kingdom of Denmark do more? What can US do more? What can NATO do more? The Kingdom of Denmark has already stepped up our own contribution by committing additional funds for military capabilities, not dock slates, but ships, drones, fighter jets, etc. And we are definitely ready to do more. The US has already a wide military access to Greenland. Under the 1951 Defense Agreement, the US can always ask for increasing its presence in Greenland, and therefore we wish to hear if the US had any further requests to make in this aspect. We would examine any such request constructively. Greenland is, through the Kingdom of Denmark, a member of NATO and has been that since the very founding of NATO in 1949 and is therefore also covered by Article 5. We have been pushing for quite a while in NATO for a stronger collective role in Greenland together with a number of allies, and we are eager to work with the US on advancing this agenda, and we are prepared to go further. Therefore, our aim was to find a common understanding on all these points and to launch, if possible, further in-depth work to deliver on them. On this basis, we had what I will describe as a frank but also constructive discussion. The discussions focused on how to ensure the long-term security in Greenland. And here our perspectives continue to differ, I must say. The President has made his view clear, and we have a different position. We, the Kingdom of Denmark, continue to believe that also the long-term security of Greenland can be ensured inside the current framework, the 1951 agreement on the defense of Greenland, as well as the NATO treaty. For us, ideas that would not respect territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark and the right of self-determination of the Greenlandic people are, of course, totally unacceptable. And we therefore still have a fundamental disagreement, but we also agree to disagree. And therefore we will, however, continue to talk. We have decided to form a high-level working group to explore if we can find a common way forward. The group, in our view, should focus on how to address the American security concerns, while at the same time respecting the red lines of the Kingdom of Denmark. We expect that such a group will meet for a first time within a matter of weeks. And then I will pass the floor to my colleague from Greenland, Vivian Mosfeld.
Thank you so much. Not repeating what already been said here, so I would like to say something in my own language, because there are many people in Greenland that follows, and for that I hope that you will allow me. So, aseseka nunaqatikka naringiraa tamas marinnasusi ullok uatsinnut pissanganarsimavoq oqaatigilarali ullumik ata.
Silver at 93? All right, hold on, chat. We have to come off. I don't speak Greenlandic. I fucking told you that silver was going to 100. Holy shit. Oh my god. Should have bought it at 50, chat. I should have bought it at 50. Oh my god, dude. Remember when I was like, wow, gold, silver's at 50? That's crazy. That's such a high price. It's doubled. Jesus. What's going on? The US Mint has suspended all sales of silver products. Oh. Are people actually able to get spot price for silver? Like, are people able to actually get this? Wow, silver has doubled in price in the last year. That's insane. 203%. Holy fuck. Up 82% the last 3 months. That's nuts nonsense. What the fuck? I bought some for father-in-law, 1 week waiting period. Good thing I own a lot of silver. I'm jealous. I started buying the moment I heard China would be banning silver export. I mean, I mentioned it 2 months ago, and it's fucking skyrocketed since then. Jeez. And gold too. God. Gold hasn't gone up as much as silver. Silver is going crazy. Why is silver going so crazy? Is it just psychological, like trying to push to that 100? Like, what's the silver justification? The Chinese export ban? How's copper doing? Because copper and silver are pretty closely associated. You usually find silver in copper mines. Wow. Oh, I thought, what about what you were going to do? Okay. So copper's up 40%. How's platinum looking? Wowie zowie. Jeez Louise. All right, so when I see markets going up and precious metals going up, I feel like the dollar has to be getting devalued, right? Like, not really. Honestly, not really. Everything is going to be so much more expensive. Holy fuck. My God, dude.
Caster Joe Rogan.
You don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up, many of which turn out to actually be U.S. citizens that just don't have their papers on them. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to?
That has also become a big part of this so-called enforcement. I mean, Minneapolis is not a huge, and they are absorbing thousands of federal officers, more than any other deployment that they've done. So we are seeing these where you're seeing federal officers, maybe ICE agents, maybe border walking down the street, stopping sometimes because they look Somali or they look brown, or whatever it is, this is according to those, and asking them, where are your papers? Show me your papers. Where were you born? That's the stuff that we're seeing. And Americans like Joe Rogan are concerned.
And I think part of it is, look, Joe Rogan's identity does not depend on defending Donald Trump and his administration doing things that are indefensible. And I see people all the time bending themselves on TV, bending themselves into all sorts of pretzel shape because they subsist from being a Trump supporter, and that's all they've got. Joe Rogan, I think, is speaking out of conviction, is speaking out of what he is seeing. And I think it's reflective of what a lot of Americans feel right now. People are showing up at the streets because they are pissed off at what is happening in our country. It is heartbreaking to see these images in America. We are the country that's supposed to be an example for the rest of the world. And the things that are happening in are the type of things that happen third world countries. And they do bring all sorts of bad memories when you see these masked men targeting people. And it's not just Minnesota. We remember the woman who got pulled out of the street in Boston by masked men. We have seen pregnant women dragged. In Minnesota, we saw 2 young teenagers who were working at Target, like so many of our children do.
American citizens.
Have a job while going to school, being pulled out, while screaming, I'm a U.S. citizen, I'm a U.S. citizen, because they look Latino and they were Latino. That is un-American and unacceptable, and good for Joe Rogan for standing up and denouncing it. More of Trump supporters, if they want him to be a good president, should be doing the same.
Let me play the Renee Good video.
It's complicated, obviously, but it's also very ugly. To watch someone shoot a U.S. citizen, especially a woman, in the face when people say it's
She didn't have a weapon. Like, come on.
Because the car hit him. It seemed like she was kind of turning the car away.
Now, Joe, what was really striking to me about this Quinnipiac poll, 53% said it was unjustified for the ICE agent to shoot Renee Good. But I was also really surprised by how this has, 82% say they saw that video. You're talking almost universal impressions of what happened there. I don't know, are Republicans misreading this situation or risking misreading the situation?
Look, if anyone saw the last segment, right, I had no problem defending the officer, and I think Joe Rogan's factually wrong about his. But I am a big Joe Rogan fan, and I listen all the time. He is really emblematic of one of the most successful things Trump did in the campaign. It was to engage podcasters and win a lot of people into that type of forum. I have a conversation in my head with Joe Rogan for hours every week. I'm a big fan, right? I talk to him. So when I hear him challenging something that I believe, or my gut reaction to something, I actually listen. So I do think this is a problem because I think he is a very good barometer of where people stand. Again, this instant, he might be factually wrong on. I think he is, but he is a good barometer.
Again, this is what I want you to understand. Like, people like this guy, if you like him or tolerate him in any way, you are scum yourself. And this is where liberals start to get uncomfortable. This bald-headed thumb fuck, this chinless loser, is a collaborator and a obfuscator for fascism. And there's really nothing more to say.
Barometer of where a lot of Trump supporters are, and I would have, you know how they have the Waffle House indicator for a hurricane, like if the Waffle House is closed, there should be a Joe Rogan indicator.
All right, with us now, CNN political commentators and David Urban. And friends, what I'd like to do is not relitigate the video or the events. I actually want to talk about how they're landing in comments, the ones David just made by Joe Rogan, who seems to be saying, I support the president's immigration effort notionally. I do not like what I'm seeing on the ground, though, he seems. How pervasive do you think that opinion is?
Yeah, John, listen, I think it is very pervasive, right? Americans overwhelmingly voted, one of the president's strongest suits, Americans overwhelmingly voted for this president, if you look at the numbers and reasons given, to secure the border and crack down on civ that was the border under the Biden administration. And this administration effectively sealed that border up and did that. And then the president promised to go after the bad hombres and the drug dealers and get those people out of America. And you know, there's a lot of support for that in America. What there isn't support for, and the polling bears this out, this isn't David Urban's, this is the polling, it bears out that people do not want to see what you're seeing on your screen right now. They do not want to hear what Joe Rogan is saying. They don't want to see masked men geared up like Delta walking down the streets of America, asking people for their papers, throwing them on the ground, zip tying, people who are doing sheetrock, gardeners, nannies. They don't want to see that. That's not what they voted for. And so it is really hurting this president in the numbers on an area where he was strongest, on immigration. Now
it is funny when you see the Republican grifters that like all the grifters they all jump on CNN. That's their favorite place where all the like founders and all the flacks and all the shills, they're like, everything we do, we must be doing it. Like this is the Republican identical mirror of third way. Donald Trump is doing something that you very rarely see in politics, doing what he said he's going to do and pursuing the policies that he said he supports. And he's doing it in a maximalist way. I wish we had a Democrat that was willing to do this for progress. I wish we had a Democrat who would move to spend $175 billion on building up our public transit or social housing or protecting our environment or decarbonizing our economy or building high-speed rail. I wish we could have a progressive that would actually go after the institutions of the right, break up big money and big banks, tax the billionaires.
It's becoming a weaker point. Karen knows this. President Obama deported lots of, but he did it in a completely different way. The Obama administration grabbed lots of who just came across the border, people who hadn't really integrated in the communities, hadn't become people's neighbors. And, surprisingly or not surprising, people don't like it when ICE shows up in their neighborhood and take away people that they have relation. The Obama administration was very effective because they snatched people didn't really know. And in this case, neighborhoods see this happening and they don't like it.
So Obama would okay, let's be honest. This guy's lying. And I've said this talking point many times as well, that Obama deported a lot of people. But Obama deported a lot of people because they caught people at the border because a lot more people thought they could come here because he was going to be more tolerant of immigration. And so they would just kick those people right back across the border. This is going into communities and ripping people out and harassing people all over the country on the streets. That's a different type of enforcement.
I think the tactics need to be addressed.
It's
just factually true, Karen.
It's not just that, you don't even know what I'm about to say, David. It's not just idea that somehow there's a difference, but it's not just taking people that people...
And by the way, I'm not saying that to defend Obama. I despise Obama with every ounce of my being, and his right-wing turn on immigration is why we are in this mess. If Obama had come in with the 60 senators and the massive majority of the House had passed an immigration policy that built in migrant workers and temporary guest workers and had a path to citizenship and an amnesty for illegal immigrants who had been in this country prior to his election and all that other shit, we wouldn't have a fucking immigration crisis. If Obama had actually pursued a robust social safety net and been popular instead of doing Larry Summers, Jeffrey Epstein economic policies, we wouldn't have Donald Trump.
It is the violence. It is the terrorizing of... There's a story in USA Today. A couple was getting back from... They're in Miami, or border protection, into their cabin, hauls them out. Gentlemen of the couple, they're both American citizens. He's a Coast Guard veteran. It's the violence that people are really reacting to. And David is right. I mean, really, people are very aware of this story, and they're very aware of other stories where there's armed militia, essentially, acting as though Americans have no rights. We have the right to someone to see their badge, who they are. But these ICE officials are acting as though you don't have that right. And there's car doors, ripping people out of their cars, even when individuals are saying, wait, I'm an American, let me get my ID. That is part of it's about the way they are conducting this far beyond, it's not taking nannies and taking, day laborers. It is now an American citizen gets shot in the face.
A St. Paul resident says federal officers knocked on her door and asked her to identify Hmong, an Asian household in a North End neighborhood last week. And on Sunday, in St. Paul's Frogtown, video showed federal agents leaving a front yard of a home. A post on Reddit titled it as Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino has officially kicked off door-to-door raids. ICE and Border Patrol spokespeople did not respond to a request for information Monday about whether they're going door-to-door. Vice President J.D. Vance noted on Fox News on Wednesday, I think we're going to see those deportation numbers ramp up as we get more and more people online working for ICE, going door to door and making sure that if you're an illegal alien, you've got to get out of this country. And if you want to come back, apply for the proper channels. This is Gestapo shit. This is actually Anne Frank shit. They better not come to my door, man. Like as I tweeted, and what really bothers me is this type of stuff is going to cause a violent response. Like, this is very bad shit. I don't want that to happen. I don't. As I've said, you know, a lot of people who criticize me, who think they're to my left, do so because they think that I don't understand why revolution is good or something. I actually have studied it, and I know that being in a revolution is not a good time. It's not fun. It's not romantic. So I want us to be as prepared as possible to have the rupture with capitalism and have it be as successful and as bloodless as possible. We are now in the period of maximum repression. They want a violent response so they can implement martial law, no elections. You are thinking like a liberal. At a certain point, either you defend your rights or they don't exist. And they're violating our constitutional rights. And they're saying, and we violated your rights. What now? If you think that holding back and not preparing is going to make them not do repression, you're wrong. They're doing the repression anyway. They shot an American in the face. We're not protecting ourselves by becoming weak or silent or by obeying in advance. We protect ourselves by becoming strong and cohered with our community. I'm going to a meeting. I'm going to a DSA meeting tonight. My New Year's resolution was to get more personally and physically involved at the level I know I should be at. And I'm starting that today. Are you? I want you to look up your local DSA, and I want you to go to the next meeting. I want you to sign up at DSA or PSL or whatever organization you feel calls to you. I want you to sign up today. I want you to pay your fucking dues.
Aliens out of the really big mark he's been working on. That was just simple willpower, and the President of the United States coming in and saying, this is, I think we're going to see those deportation numbers ramp up as we get more and more people online, working for ICE, going door to door and making sure that if you're an illegal alien, you've got to get out of this country. And if you want to come back, what we've done is actually gotten.
There are no proper channels. Also, why does this guy wear eyeliner? Why the fuck does this guy wear eyeliner? What is going on? Is it like, does he like, what the fuck? I'm sorry. It's just so, is it tattooed on? Like, why is he wearing eyeliner? Iran is cooked. U.S. likely to attack Iran within the next 24 hours, according to Reuters. 3 destroyers deployed to Middle East and movement of other military assets indicate strikes are imminent. U.S. withdrawing some personnel from bases in the Middle East as precaution. Israeli assessment sees U.S. intervening, timing and scope unclear. Western official Iranian security apparatus remains in control. Protests have posed biggest challenge in Iranian authorities in years. 2 European officials said U.S. military intervention could come in the next 24 hours. Israeli official also said if Trump had decided to intervene. U.S. moves some personnel from key airbase as tensions mount with Iran. Remember when Donald Trump pretended to be the peace president? Remember how many Jimmy Dore heads and idiots were like, oh man, if Hillary gets elected, we'll be at a war with Iran. Donald Trump is the peace president. Remember how I was like, yeah, those people are dumb as fuck? And here we are. My DSA is a shell of an organization. I can't even contact them. What do I do? There's 2 things you could do. One, you should go and look and see what contact information even exists and try to contact the people that used to run it and get lists of the people that were interested. And you should try to form a organizing committee or reach out and contact people directly. So if you have a shell, there's some sort of emails. I would like email everything. I'd look at the Facebook, see the people associated with, message them, and see if you can track them down and try to get that revived. The other thing you could do is if that organization doesn't exist anywhere in your local area, you can look for organizations, specifically MoveOn.org and Indivisible. Those are going to be much more liberal organizations, but they are going to be people that are actively opposed to this shit and grassroots type people that you could radicalize. So you need to find other like-minded people. There's also something called Make the Road. That's a radical immigration group that I recommend organizing with as well. All right, chat, I'm going to call it there. Thank you so much for all the support. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to send you guys, gals, non-binary pals over to the mothership. It's been a minute since we went to the mothership. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever, my friends. Here's all my links. And one more time, here's the links. Make sure you follow me on everything. I'll see you soon. Also, we have a new video chat. Trump's takeover of Greenland. Make sure you go watch that. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever, my friends. I will see you soon. Peace out. Why did that happen? All right, peace out, guys.